But I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest. Into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Sunday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. Of course, that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may wonder? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Got another doozy for you tonight. I've had a lot of cosmic things on my mind lately, and as you know, we like to really go after the just really biggest questions here because, like I said, short of a philosophy course or things like this, you don't really get a lot of this type of discussion anymore on the interwebs because everything has become, TikTokified, and everything has to be like a 30-second narrative, and it has to be, young people dancing around scantily clad, or else nobody watches. There's no engagement anymore. There's no actually internet engagement for those things. Well, for things outside of the realm of the instant dopamine hit. But of course, we do things differently on this show, and of course, growing slowly as a result of that, but growing nonetheless. You cannot stop the ideas, and you cannot stop the conversation, and that's really what this show's always been about. Just getting together, talking, and all the rest. Tonight, like I said, cosmic is on my mind once again. We've been speaking in the last week or so, maybe 10 days, to the effect of, let there be light and the beginning of beginnings and things like this. But also there's a bunch of really fascinating news happening in the realm of sound, because of course, when you say let there be light and everything was good and it was good, or whatever it says in Genesis. And again, like I said, a non-denominational and not trying to be disrespectful, just using old ideas as philosophical concepts in a sort of new technological terms. And that's really what this has always been about. Okay, so please don't get anybody get offended when I use some biblical scripture as an example here to begin the conversation. I'm not trying to make anybody mad, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful whatsoever. You guys already know that, but it bears repeating because people misunderstand me. even though long form talk is one of those beautiful things where you have a lot of time to explain yourself. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. But of course, I'm going to do it along with you, with your help, because this is the most interactive radio show in the known multiverse, which means I'm reading your chat in all the places. I'm trying to incorporate your ideas into the show as we go. And of course, I'm taking your phone calls and trying to really talk to people, right? Hey, TikTok and scantily clad people dancing around and 30-second narratives. It's all fine, but nobody's really trying to talk to anybody. They're just trying to market something, and become like the worldwide brand with a bouncing around in the overalls or whatever they're doing. Like, I don't even know. Do overalls even still exist? I don't even know. I'm old, but never let an old person live in your body. Great advice. But we're going to talk about that tonight. Old people. We're going to talk about octogenarians, but in not a way you think, in a different way, as usual. And I think. Well, we're going to go cosmic with this. The Sounds of Silence. You guys ever heard that song? And, of course, how all this fits together in only a way that troubled minds can do. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do, okay? And so we'll get to that in a moment. As usual, we're streaming in all the places. Like I said, keep that thoughtful chat coming. I appreciate it. Trying to incorporate those ideas in as we go. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, taking your calls at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Phone number will be on the screen for most of the show. You can see it there. If I read it too fast and you do want to call, everybody's welcome. This is Big Ten Conspiracy, by the way. Just try and keep it reasonably on topic. And what I mean by that is it's in the best way, because nonlinear, open-ended is where we take this. Wherever you guys want to take this. If I've prepared everything to go one direction, but you guys want to take it some other direction, perfect. That's why we do it. I'm not going to get mad. I'll just save those bullets for a later time and resurface the conversation and point in a different direction. That's what this is about. So if you want to be part of the show, phone number's there. Big Ten Conspiracy, like I say, and it's not an in club. This is just the cool kids club. All right. So let's see. What are we doing? That I think we got that covered. I don't know. It feels like I missed something, but who cares? Whatever. All right, forget it. Let's start. Let us begin, shall we? Now, it starts here. There's a whole bunch of ways to look at this. Actually, let's start with this. Let's start with Nature. Now, Nature.com, they've been talking about this, and we talked about it briefly for a couple shows last week and the week before, but it just came out. June 29th, monster gravitational waves spotted for first time. And, of course, this was, speculated as existing by Einstein and some other notable bangers of the old days, the good old-fashioned oldies but goodies, that ideas don't die. They only get better. But my point of bringing this up and pointing that out is you'll see how it comes together a little bit later. But these monster gravitational waves spotted for the first time, and links are in the description as always. I encourage you guys to read these in full if you're super interested, because there's a lot of really good information here. But it got me thinking in terms of the beginning of beginnings. Let there be light, okay? But in this sense, we're talking about gravitational waves, which are more it's more sound than light, and of course it's exhibiting some sort of really they say that the cosmic microwave background is a radiation signature, and whereby they can measure the age of the universe, okay, which is cool, and that's fine. And I'm not being an anti-science guy and trying to refute that. But what I am saying is that this new thing that they've discovered is this gravitational wave, which has been long speculated, and we've been trying to find them for a long time, and now suddenly they've been exhibited as this sort of, not like the cosmic background of the radiation there, but as sort of a cosmic hum, like a new cadence, like a new timbre of music, even, dare I say, something musically. And I don't know what that means, other than there's a lot of mythology that kind of builds into this and gets you into the idea of, at least it got me into the idea of, in the beginning, maybe there was sound. Maybe sound, the frequencies, vibrations of Tesla, maybe that was the beginning of beginnings. And we're going to talk about that. And again, as I said, we're always going to go cosmic and weird and just be as bizarre as possible on this show. Not to be obtuse, but because, like I said, TikTok doesn't do it for me, and I hope TikTok does not do it for you. Well, obviously not. Otherwise, you would be there and not here. In any case, so let's do it. That's what's on my mind tonight. And as usual, looking to hear your ideas as we go. Straight from this thing. Now, in the vast tapestry of human mythology and narrative, one finds a recurring motif. The symphony of existence. And now you can see what I'm talking about in terms of that sort of new gravitational wave, which is a hum. It's an actual hum. So this symphony of existence, born from the primordial cadences of creation. Across cultures and epochs, this theme reverberates, echoing the fundamental role of sound, of harmony, and of resonance in the genesis and evolution of our universe. In the profound depths of Hindu cosmology, we encounter the sacred syllable Om, which we've talked about in the past. This primordial utterance, believed to be the first sound of the universe, resonates through time and space. Its profound vibrations are said to connect the individual to the cosmos, invoking the divine energy that sparked the light of creation. Now, think about that. So in Hindu cosmology, the sacred syllable Om was long considered to be the first sound in the universe. And now, what do we find? Science is, again, is sort of revalidating these old ideas. And think about that. So this monster gravitational wave is exhibiting as some sort of background hum. Dare I say it sounds a little bit like or something to that effect. And so we don't really know because, of course, you would have to, record it and then change it into, human terms so we could hear it specifically. And I don't think they've done that just yet. I haven't been able to find it if they have. If you guys know anything about that, drop me the link and maybe I can rip the audio during a commercial. We'll play it on the show. But it really resonates with me. See what I did there? Resonates with me in terms of what all this means. Because maybe in the beginning there was sound, and maybe in the end we seek Ouroboros style through a transhumanist future, and trust me, this all makes sense, to return to the original tone, which in this case, well, might be the reverberations of the black holes smashing together in the primordial universe. Venture, again, so we got Om, right? That's an amazing one. Venture to the southern hemisphere, and you find the Aboriginal cultures of Australia and the concept of dream time, which we've talked about a lot on this show. Here, mythical song lines, they call them, trace the paths of creator beings across land and sky. These celestial melodies recorded in songs, stories, dances, and paintings are the echoes of the world's dawn, a harmonious blueprint of existence. Interestingly, we see a lot of things fitting together, don't we? Let's go to the Chinese cosmology. Deep within the annals of ancient Chinese cosmology, we found the universe birthing from a state of noisy chaos, a swirling vortex known as Hun-Dun. And if I said that incorrectly, let me know. H-U-N-D-U-N, Hun-Dun, I don't know. Hun-Dun. Here, sound is not merely a byproduct, but the primal energy of creation itself, the raw material from which the cosmos is sculpted into being. And notice there's a whole, again, on and on and on and on. We're going to talk about sort of these ancient mythologies that describe cosmology as the beginning being sound instead of light. So, of course, the speed of light is faster than the speed of sound, but, sound, how do you get chaos in light? That's difficult for me to envision. If you can envision that and want to explain it to me, I'd love to hear it. But getting chaos in sound, I think, is very much easier to interpret as a chaotic symphony or a cacophony of just primordial, dare I say, nonsensical sounds or whatnot. I don't know. Of course, nobody really knows what that sounds like because, unless you're very, very, very old, you have never mind. Nobody here's that old. No, come on, let's not play. Anyway, so it gets even better. A journey to the frosty realms of Norse mythology. And there we find the universe springing forth from Ginnungagap, I think is how you say it. If I pronounce that wrong, sorry, I'm only one guy. A void filled with primal echoes and resonances. Out of this sonic chaos, a world of order and structure emerges, populated by gods, humans, and creatures, all playing their parts in the grand cosmic orchestra. Now, does this make sense? Not yet, because we're just beginning here, and it's going to get weird, because it seems to me that this idea of sounds and this ancient symphony of the primordial beginning is really where we're heading in the end. And what I mean by that is new technology, of course, this transhumanist future, which I'm calling this, of course, the meat space exit, which it'll all make sense in a moment, a transhumanist cosmic symphony. Now, the thing is this, okay? If we're able to download our consciousness out of the meat suit, out of this meat space that's being called in newfangled terms, out of the meat space and into, dare I say, an ashtray or an R2-D2-like entity. That would be sort of a copy and paste of our current consciousness, okay? Which that is fine, but does that mean that our current consciousness does not grow and learn? Well, it fits in because there's some new studies happening whereby and wherein it seems like there are keys to unlock eternal learning within the human mind. And of course, there are just baby steps in this, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight and how all this really fits together. But here's the thing too, and this is where the questions come in. Number one, how do you feel about the idea of sound itself being the primordial chaos? Before there was light, is it possible that it was sound? Number two, in a transhumanist future, if we remove our brains, our conscious self from the meat suit and put us in some sort of server or R2-D2 robot or something to this effect, whatever it is, like I said, the world is changing so incredibly fast, we can't even really fathom what this is going to look like. But if we're able to do that, how will we communicate in the future? Will it be like super fast texting? Will it just be like a download of data? Or dare I say, once again, that we might begin to communicate with each other through sound, through harmony, through resonances, through a digital symphony in perfect harmony? And that's just a couple questions to begin. And you're right, Tolkien has the sounds in Silmarillion too, and I've got that in the write-up here because I think it's important. A lot of these really ancient tales describe this as the beginning of beginnings. And what I want to know too is, do you think that as people we are trying to always find that beginning, like we're always drawn to it? And I think when you take the human consciousness out of the meat suit or this meat space experience, and you try and digitize it, and then have it communicate with other conscious entities, let's say, in a network, which is what's coming, by the way, guys, it's coming. Do you think that that's what's going to happen? We're going to start communicating with each other through these tones, through where old becomes new again, and language becomes not language anymore. It becomes music. It becomes this transhumanist cosmic symphony is what I'm calling this tonight, because it makes sense. It makes some sense to me that, we've talked about the close encounters of the third kind and, the mathematics of discussion and conversation and language itself. And then, of course, how we would actually communicate with like an extraterrestrial presence. And J. Allen Hynek, famous from Project Blue Book, collaborated with Steven Spielberg all the way back in the late 70s. And they determined that the way we would communicate with extraterrestrials would be through some sort of mathematical tonal resonance. Okay? You get what I'm saying. So it seems like the beginning is the end, as the beginning is the end. And it seems like we're always trying to find where we came from. And what does that mean? There's this weird yearning within us. And something resonates with me when I hear particular tones and sounds. We've talked about music and the power of music and whether it can be uplifting or it can be minor key depressing or even alien. Anybody seen The Fifth Element with that the aliens singing in these non-human orchestral tones of an alien that do not exist in the human vocal range? Pretty wild stuff when you put all this together. But it does seem to me that maybe this is where we're heading back to the beginning, and stripping us of this meat suit experience in a transhumanist future. Is it possible then that this is where we're going, right back to the beginning of the primordial tones that started it all? And would that be, by proxy, the original language? And I don't know. I don't know. I do like to think about what the consequences of this mean. But in these narratives that we talked about here, we glimpse a profound truth echoed across cultures and epochs. Our universe is not a silent tableau, but a symphony. A harmonious concert that began with the first notes of creation and continues to evolve through its myriad melodies. From the individual to the cosmic, from the physical to the digital, we are all part of this grand cosmic orchestra, contributing our unique melodies to the eternal concert of existence. But is there a yearning for modern humanity to return to a harmonious celestial state? And that's the question tonight. That's the fundamental question of this show. As you know, nonlinear, open-ended, we can take it wherever you want to take it. But it did really sort of resonate with me because there's a lot of these news stories in the news cycles. Now, I'm going to burn through a couple of these just so you see that I'm not just pulling stuff out of my ass here. There's some stuff happening that seems to suggest maybe, dare I bring it up again, the law of Fantasia, like we did on Wednesday night last week, whereby music is magic. A shout out to Sir Tank if you're out there. So we have not just these monster gravitational waves, digital immortalities coming, which we'll get back to in a second because I think it's an important thing here. The universe is getting older. It's 26.7 billion years old, astrophysicist claims, which of course is nearly twice what they've said it is. Everything's getting older and more primordial and of course more chaotic in terms of where we really came from. But this is what I mean in terms of sound. This is from ScienceAlert.com. Experiment shows humans really can hear silence after all. Links are in the description. I encourage you to read these in full. Amazing stuff. We'll get back to these specific ideas here. But then also, here's another one from science.org, and these are all in the last couple weeks. Our brains may process silence and sounds the same way, where it used to be that we really couldn't differentiate whether we heard silence or not. Okay, check this out. It gets even more weird. From phys.org, July 13th. This is all literally these three are in the last week. Acoustics researchers decompose sound accurately into its three basic components. That's weird. Has anybody ever heard the number 3 before being some sort of, well, I don't know, sacred thing? Or, yeah, right? What did Tesla say? 369? Here we go. Anyway, researchers have been looking into ways to decompose sound into its basic ingredients for more than 200 years. In the 1820s, French scientist Joseph Fourier proposed that any signal, including sounds, can be built using a sufficient number of sine waves. These waves sound like whistles. Each have their own frequency, level, and start time, and are basic building blocks of sound. However, some sounds, such as the flute and a breathy human voice, hey, may require hundreds or even thousands of sines, these sine waves, to exactly imitate the original waveform. This comes from the fact that such sounds contain a less harmonical, more noisy structure. Oh, like chaos, like the beginning, where all frequencies occur at once. One solution is to divide sound into two types of components, sines and noise, with a smaller number of whistling sine waves and combined with variable noises. Anyway, in the end here, and we'll get to more of this as we go, this is what we're talking about. All of this brand new sort of audio frequency type stuff with processing sound, being able to hear silence and differentiate, being able to break down noise itself, music itself, sound itself into three basic sine waves or sine wave groups. Pretty wild stuff when you start to think about the implications here and what this actually means. Do I know? Of course not. I'm not never going to try and pretend to be the answers guy. I just see these things in the news cycle when they kind of come hot and heavy, and it makes me wonder if there's something more happening, or maybe there's something more happening and the universe is trying to tell us about it. I don't know. And then we'll get to super agers and some of this other stuff and this digital immortality, because it does really fit. And what I mean is, once we remove ourselves from that meat suit experience, how do we communicate with each other? It's going to be, remember in the old days when you had a dial-up modem and it was kind of like whistles and boops and it sounded very R2D2-y, or did I say that? R2D2-like. You know what I mean? Remember that old modem sound that was like... Well, think about that in terms of a transhumanist future whereby we're removed from the meat suit space entirely. Is that how we're going to communicate? And does it, let's say, echo the primordial sounds of the past? That's where my mind's at tonight. As usual, no answers, just questions, ideas, wonderances, and trying to find truth, or at least a closer to truth than what the propagandists tell us. So you tell me, what do you know about this meat space exit? Do you think a transhumanist cosmic symphony is where we're headed, but also, as the Ouroboros eats its tail, is it also where we began? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-9232. 1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. We got Matthew in Colorado and your calls when we return. Remember, Big Tent Conspiracy. You guys are all invited. 702-957-1037. More Troubled Minds on the way. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking our calls as we discuss, in the beginning, there was sound. And if you look at mythologies the world over, including, let's say, Tolkien and the Silmarillion, there was harmony. There was sort of a celestial, without discord, chorus, symphony. And of course, I'm wondering if in the end we're trying to get back to that through this sort of transhuman future whereby we remove our consciousness from ourselves and put it into these machines, into these, like I said, R2-D2 type ashtrays or servers or something to that effect. And notice the sounds of the original modem sound very much like R2-D2 beeping incessantly in the night. And is that the way eventually we're going to communicate with each other through a transhumanist future whereby we remove all actual physical sensations from consciousness itself? Does it all return to frequency, vibration? What was the other thing that Tesla said? 369 in any case. I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Matthew in Colorado. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, my man? Go right ahead.
Energy. Yeah,
energy.
got a little echo.
I got you. I got your echo. I got your echo right here, and I got your energy right here. Go right ahead, sir. Yes, frequency, energy, frequency, vibration. Thank you. What's on your mind, my man?
In the movie that you mentioned, Fifth Element, a great movie, and the female actress in there, if you're a heterosexual guy, oh God, she just okay, all right.
So all right. Yeah. Calm down, my friend. We're talking about a different type of inspiration tonight. Whoa.
But in terms of sound, I want to think about it two different ways. I want to think about sound in the, physics sense and how we define it and experience it here on planet Earth, and cosmic sound. So I want to think about it in two different ways. So you cannot have sound in space, and you cannot have sound in space because sound is the vibration of basically air. So when you have sound, what you have is you have a wave going out in the air that affects the human ears. And if we had sound in space, the problem is, when a star went supernova, it would create so much sound, and there's so many stars that go supernova. It would be so loud that you would not be able to hear my voice. I mean, all you would hear was just such an incredible cacophony of sound that you would not be able to hear anything. So in terms of physical sound, we're really lucky that it doesn't travel through space. But in terms of maybe cosmic sound, maybe that's more based on something like the harmony of the spheres, or something of the mathematical nature and of the vibration. Going back to Tesla, energy, frequency, and vibration. So it's the frequency and the vibration of energy. But that is different than what we typically think of as sound, or something you hear in your ears as music or something. We're really talking about two different things. And
Yeah,
and
like-
that's
Back to that old
Yeah.
trope real quick. The old nobody can hear you scream in space, right? Back to that whole routine is what we're talking about here.
right. Yeah. So because there's no air in space, you can't have the vibration of air to create sound. So like if you were in one spaceship following another, and they fired their jets, and like on Earth, it would make this big loud sound like you were taking off from Cape Canaveral, but if you were behind them and you were in space, you wouldn't hear a dang thing. Uh, so that's one thing. But in terms of what I think it really comes back to is more, like I said, maybe there's two aspects of it, of a maybe a more spiritual or I want to say mathematical. Now, maybe that has to do with my prejudice, with my background in mathematics, and maybe it has to do with frequency and vibration, going back to Tesla. But I think that really, let's say sound and music is all has to do with mathematics. And if you take like a piano and you look at our notes and you divide it up to octaves and everything like that, what you're doing is you're creating these mathematical octaves and frequencies of sound that totally correlate to and relate to mathematics. So I've said this before. Some people think that the nature of the universe is music, and some people think that the nature of the universe is mathematics. And what I've said is they're really two and one in the same. But I think that because sound and music doesn't really physically travel through the universe, I'm going to go with mathematics. And then we come to, how does that affect our consciousness? So how does that frequency, that energy, that vibration affect our consciousness? And like you said about Om, okay, well, that could be an interpretation of sound, how we hear it through human ears on planet Earth. But it could be perceived differently, or it could come from some inherent mathematics, some inherent frequency and vibration that's coming from, like you said, like a different background cosmic radiation of the universe. And there's also another one, which is Hue, which is another one that is said to be kind of like Om. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but you can look it up, Google it real quick, Hue. And so we have Q and we have Om, and maybe these have to do with these primordial sounds slash frequencies slash vibrations slash mathematics that are running the universe. And I think that those have a lot to do with perhaps what sets up or creates the physical universe itself. And this sort of perhaps ties into cymetics. Is that the right way to say it? Cymetics, or
I think I've heard it cymatics. I've heard it kymatics. I don't really know.
Yeah,
to be perfectly honest, I have no idea.
Cymatics, kymatics. So if you, for the people who don't know, if you produce a particular sound frequency, and let's say in experiments they put a speaker under a table. It's a glass table. They put sand on top of it. They produce a musical note or a particular tone, and that sound will vibrate until it forms a particular geometric pattern. And some of those will correlate to, the patterns that we have for crystals and hexagonal patterns and things tied into sacred geometry. And so there seems to be a correlation between sound or vibration and form, which ties in that energy, that vibration, that frequency with form or matter. And so there may be a primordial essence of that, whether it be ohm or hue or particular frequencies, whether we can hear them in space or not doesn't matter. And that actually affects matter to bring it into particular forms, to pick particular called a congruence. And so, one sound or frequency or vibration might bring it into a salt molecule, which has 6 sides. It's a cube. And others might bring it into something that looks more like a plant, etc. And so there may be, like you were saying, like in the beginning, there was the word. And what is the word? Well, that kind of relates us to, it was sound. It was the spoken word. And the spoken word brought in to existence form. It brought into existence matter. It affected it. It affected what shape and form it took. So what do you think about that so far, or any questions? But I want to touch on transhumanism.
Yeah, that's where this heads. So it is strange to me that, like I said, we've talked about this in the past in different angles, and that's what I love about this show. We can kind of revisit some of these old concepts, compare them to new science and things they're discovering, and then also look again, peer over the horizon, shout out Night Stalker, and try and see what's coming next. And it does make me wonder in terms of all of this. Like, I think it's very clear that sort of those energy, frequency, vibration, like you said, depending on how you define sound, is sort of rattling through the atmosphere and hitting our eardrums, is not really the same sort of sound you might get from space. It needs to be translated, all this stuff. But it is very clear that sort of this dissonant drum, thumb, hum, ohm, or whatever you want to call it, is prevalent. And not only that, isn't it strange that something that we should not be able to hear or pick up as humans, back to ohm, is very now resonant in terms of these black holes colliding and these gravitational waves being detected as sort of this dissonant, constant frequency that's just prevalent throughout the universe. Like, that's wild stuff. If we're talking about our ancestors, we're able to conceptualize this. And then, of course, the question becomes, and I'm going to set you up here, is this where we want to head back to? If we knew about this so many years ago, thousands of years ago, as conceptualized philosophy of where we came from, in a transhumanist future, is this where we're headed back to the modems and the beep, beep, beeping, back to consciousness without sort of, tactile, sensory human input? Does it all get reduced to the sound of a modem and us communicating to each other like R2-D2? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I think that like you were just saying, and back in time, and I think in current time, both of those apply. And we've talked about this before. I think we have an antenna. I don't know what that antenna is. I don't know where it's located, either in the human brain or the mind, or, I tend to think of it as a connection between consciousness and the mind and the brain has like an interlink. It's an interlink that is almost like connecting to the internet. And so your computer is like the brain, and then when it reaches out to a server, that's like your mind. And then when that server is intercommunicating with other servers and gets out to the whole internet, that is like your consciousness, if I can use an analogy. So I know that goes to multiple people, but I don't mean it in that way. So I think that we have an antenna, we have an ability within the human brain to interconnect with both the mind and also the consciousness. And that's what affords us the opportunity to connect with other people's consciousness. And what that affords us the opportunity, and explains quite well, things like telepathy, mind-to-mind communication. And beyond that, perhaps, if all consciousness is interconnected and all is one, that creates something that's almost like soul-to-soul communication, or unified consciousness and a unified field theory. And when I look at it from that perspective, and then I think about the transhumanism stuff, I just don't think it could ever get there. I think when you take out the human elements of it, if you downloaded a brain's memory to a computer and start interconnecting those computers, or whatever you want to do, and replacing body parts or something like that, I think it breaks the natural system. I don't think that the transhumanism agenda and movement and concept, I think it's inherently flawed, because I think it breaks down the natural system of that antenna that we have, that incredible, wonderful brilliance that is humanity, that is intuition, that is heart, that is empathy, that is love, that is compassion, that is the quantum computing ability of our brain, networking too, and interconnecting with our consciousness. And I don't think consciousness really, I just can't imagine, I may be wrong, but I can't imagine it's ever going to be able to be contained in a computer, even a supercomputer, quantum computer. It's something different, because I think it's fundamentally made of energy. I think it's made of etheric energy. They used to, back in science days, 120 years ago, they had a placeholder kind of called the ethers. And I think consciousness, exists in the ethers. It's an etheric energy. It's a different type of energy. And I don't think transhumanism, with the computers and the technology and interfacing with that, is ever going to replicate that. And it's almost like saying, what do you think you can do better than the creator designed it to be? Really? Seriously? No, I don't think so. I think the creator created it perfectly from the beginning.
Well said. Well said. And I think there's a case to be made there. I mean, look, we're here, and not to say we're perfect, of course, but we certainly are finely tuned, let's say. I think that's probably a good way to put it. Perfectly tuned, no, but finely tuned for life on Earth and being part of this ecosystem, and even, dare I say, a cosmic ecosystem like you're describing in sort of the antenna. And I mean, maybe. As always, me. I gotta give a rubber stamp, maybe, to all this stuff. Clunk, maybe. What else you got? We got a call there on the line behind you. Who is that? Can you type in the chat what your name is if you got your hand up? Let's see, who is that? Because my stupid streamer mode on Discord, it doesn't list your full name. It says H. Requested to speak, H. Just type your full name, please. Whatever you want me to call you, whatever you want us to call you. It's a harsher boy. Okay, gotcha. Because it literally just says H, and if I'm not familiar with your avatar, or you change your picture, it screws me up because the streamer mode. Anyway, whatever. All right, we'll go to harsher boy in a moment. But yeah, I think so. How about, do you think that we are in these terms, sort of the Ouroboros style, maybe trying to go back to this original cadence, the original sound, the original cacophony of the modem, the dial-up modem? And a nice chat's going over there on Rumble, by the way, and everybody's laughing about the old modem sound. And I described it as this. Now, the weird part is that it was sort of like this weird musical cadence. I know you're old enough to remember the original dial-up internet sound, right? Where we were sort of conditioned to be like, oh, that's a great sound because we're now like plugging into the World Wide Web, right? But then also it was just a horrific sound. It was like one of those like such a disjointed group of tones that that we should have been irritated by it. But it's like a perfect example of how we end up, well, I don't know, maybe fooling ourselves, or maybe I don't know. What do you think about that idea?
No, I remember those days. You know, we had like, I don't know, it was a 128K modem or so, 64K that, you know, first came out. I had my father used to actually work for IBM. And so I'm second generation, you know, computer guy. And so because of his connections with IBM, we got the serial number 1,200 and whatever, 34 IBM PC. The original that came off the factory line because he had, you know, inside connections. So I worked on one of the original IBM PCs and we got a modem, and I remember that modem sound. And I actually got, so after doing it so many times, you could get finely tuned to when it was communicating or not communicating, and when it was doing a retry, or it was going to fail, or when it was going to connect. And you could hear that connection when they started talking, and you could hear that connection sound, and you get excited. It's like, oh, I'm going to get online. Right.
Yeah, right. But this is what I mean. So think about Star Wars and Luke Skywalker. When R2 would go, like Luke Skywalker spoke that language. He didn't need like a little readout of, like he heard it and was like, no, R2, relax. Everything's going to be okay. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah, totally the same thing. I could totally understand the modem. I really could. And yeah, and I think that, you know, what's important here, and I think that for me, if there is a return to that old modem sound, what I'm going to say is that old modem sound of how to connect is things like meditation. It's things like going out in nature, spending time with, you know, the birds, and taking a hike. And it's things like, you know, earthing, you know, taking off your shoes and walking on the beach or walking on the dirt. And it's things like spending time with actual people and interacting with them instead of spending time on your cell phone while you're trying to eat dinner and enjoy each other's company. You know,
Yeah.
I if we're going back to like the actual connection that makes a real and substantial connection, I think we got to go old school. And and part of that might be, you know, shamanism, but like all the things we talk about, music, we talk about drumming, we talk about sensory deprivation tanks, we talk about hallucinogens. There's so many of these spiritual practices, or just being a dang human for crying out loud, like just being an old school person like we used to do, you know, 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and leaving this damn technology and transhumanism crap behind. If there's a way we're going to reconnect and establish that modem connection, I think those are the way to go. And I've said before, and I'm going to say again, and I'll say in the future, there comes a time where everybody must choose whether they're going to go to the left or they're going to go to the right. And that time comes soon. And for me, I know which path I'm going to choose.
Which, of course, is not a hearkening to lefty-righty politics. It's whether you want to be a transhumanist digital consciousness, which supposedly lives outside of time and does not exhibit or experience entropy as the meat suit does. This, and that's why we're talking this meat space exit here. And will we eventually be communicating to each other like R2-D2? But again, there's a weird parallel how it goes back to so much audio that we think we know about in terms of, you know, ancient music and, you know, like the great masters of old. And still, and I say ancient, I mean, you know, 500 or 600 years ago. But in that sense, it seems like for all the audio know-how and all the computers and digital stuff, and let's say EVPs even work those into the equation here, that type of stuff, there's still so much we don't really understand entirely conceptually in the cosmic sense of what audio is and can become. Like you just said, you described it in 3 or 4 different ways, whether you're inside the atmosphere, outside the atmosphere, in 6 ways from Sunday, every other way too. About 30 seconds. What else you got?
Well, that's about it. And you plugged my books for me, and I appreciate that. When I first came on the show, I said I didn't come on here to plug my books, but you asked me about them. But I'll say I do have, one book, Effective Communication Through Harmonious Relationships, or Harmonious Relationships Through Effective Communication. And I have my Escape the Matrix book. And then I have another one that's about health and nutrition stuff, about healing your gut. It's targeted towards gluten intolerance, but it's really just general information about how to heal your gut. And I'm sure you'll tell people where they can find those.
Absolutely. TroubledMinds.org/friends. It says Matt's books here. Click the thing. Help our friends out. Again, like I said, this is about us. This is not about me. This is about me being blessed enough to be in the whirlwind of these conversations, and you guys are the ones slinging the ideas. I appreciate it very much. You're the best, Matthew. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great night. We're still talking about this Meet Space Exit. Look, in the beginning, there was sound. Now, in a transhumanist world, are we going to beep at each other like old school modems? More Troubled Minds coming up. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images does it traverse neurons in the brain.
All right, so maybe
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we discuss the idea of the sounds of silence, or the sounds of the old modem, the 56K modem, or the 128K modem, or, of course, equating all of that to a transhumanist future whereby we're beeping and booping at each other like R2-D2. And what I mean by that is it all began with sound. If you look at some of these different mythological beginnings, it wasn't just let there be light. In some cases, it was the chaos of sound, or harmony and dissonance as it was introduced to the harmony. And so, do you think that in some way, when they remove us from this meat space, I like to call it meat suit because it sounds funny, but there's a term called meat space, and it just means removing us from what we are, into something else, that transhumanist future. Now, a lot of news things popping regarding silence. Experiment shows humans really can hear silence after all. Our brains may process silence and sounds the same way. And then this other one, which is super wild, acoustics researchers decompose sound accurately into its 3 basic components. And of course, when you hear the number 3, your tinfoil tingles, at least mine does. And I consider that maybe Tesla was right about everything. About everything. In any case, what I'm thinking tonight is I wonder if you remove the humanity, the consciousness from the humanity, okay? And really put us into some sort of digital component. And we start beeping and booping at each other like the modems of old, like R2-D2. Like even like Matt said, which is super funny, he could really speak the language of the modem and hear when it was dialing, when it was having problems. It was kind of making those like R2-D2 sounds that Luke Skywalker could decipher in the movies without an actual readout. He would just hear R2 beeping and booping. And from the cadence and from the sounds, he would interpret what R2 was actually telling him, speaking basically like a binary language of sound or something to that effect, right? Like the binary language of moisture evaporators. It's like a second language to me, sir. But something like that, right? And as weird as this gets, I don't know. I wonder, in the cyclical term of all things, if it began with sound, does it end with sound? And are we actually striving to just really, through let's say, the evolution of the meat suit, a meat space exit, are we actually evolving to just rejoin the sonic symphony of the cosmos itself? You tell me. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Thanks for being patient, guys. Thanks for being part of this. And I don't know, as usual, no answers for me, just ideas. And I tend to pick things out of the news cycle in sort of that synchromistic way. And this audio acoustic stuff is screaming at me. But what do you think? Let's go to Jacob Harsher Boy. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, my man? And go right ahead.
Doing good. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go right ahead.
Right.
What's your take on this? Do you think I'm off the rails? Per usual?
Well, I mean, I've been like very musical at a pretty young age. And then like I was inspired by like Angus Young or something from AC/DC. I just wanted to do that. But it didn't happen until like about 6 months to a year later. I met some people who were like actually already musicians, met up with the right people. And sure enough, finally, once I put a lot of dedication into like playing, like learning music and stuff, it took a while. But anyways, you put it into the work. And so what I was thinking was like sometimes, so I'll forward like 20 years later, I'll just be walking around my city the nighttime and I'll just get like a perfect chorus in my head somewhere, like out of nowhere. So I think that's what I'm saying. Like, there's something that you're tuning into, or like, if you dedicate yourself enough, you can find something like that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that definitely tracks for sure. And maybe I think that's an interesting angle here too. We were talking cymatics with Matthew there a little bit, and it feels like whether we're musicians or not, that music is sort of that tickle to the soul. Whether it can just strike the perfect chord. If you're feeling bad, you turn on the minor key thing, and it just sort of like soothes you. But then also, right, if you're feeling a little without energy, you can just like pump up some AC/DC, and then suddenly you've got a bunch of energy like you didn't even think you could manifest. And so there's a lot of ways here where sort of this sound and that vibration and how humans sort of react to it is magical. What do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to definitely be able to rock out or something like that. But anyways, and another side part of this is like, okay, so you're talking about like, how is this understanding all these different languages? Like, I think an interesting example. So I wrote a song called Within the Stones, and it means basically it's talking about, I don't know if it's either Ra or Thoth. Basically, they were able to speak the language of the stones. So that's one of the theories why some of the ancient monuments we have were maybe put in place. So what do you think about
that? So like we're talking like Stonehenge or something to that effect, where the drums
more like a lot of the stuff from Egypt. It's just a theory, but it's just like, okay, so these other worldly beings, if that's what you consider those to be, which I do, well, I think it's a theory, but anyways, they were able to just speak the language of the stones that put in, with sound vibrations, stuff like that. If you speak the language of something, maybe they had like more like kind of something like magic or something, or just spoke the language of the stones as well. But
yeah,
I think it's interesting, how that works.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly interesting. And of course, now look, this is a new experiment too. The experiment shows humans really can hear silence after all. So silence itself, the lack of sound, and that's supposed to not be a thing because our eardrums are supposed to, be able to differentiate sounds and tones and these sorts of things. The headphones and all this stuff, right? Like this is all old science. But then suddenly we're like, wait, so. You know how when you have, and you're a musician, so you know what I mean, and we have it on this podcast too. I haven't been able to completely dial it out without super expensive equipment, but there's sort of that little latent hiss, right? That as I speak, the sound gate kind of cuts off, and it's like a little bit of a tss. But so that itself, is that the sound of the stones? Let's say remove all technology. And if you sit there, let's say meditating in the desert, and it's true silence, no wind, no anything. Is that the sound of the stones themselves? That's that pure silence, or are they resonating on some frequency that maybe, just maybe, sort of a non-tonal frequency that we recognize that maybe this is a real thing? I don't know. I'm with you, man. In terms of how this stuff works, is mysterious as hell. But if you figured out something I don't know, I want to hear it.
I think it's you mentioned the word primordial. It means something very, very primal within our nature, and I think maybe we cross paths with it, like changing frequencies. I think that's definitely a thing. So that part, I definitely think for sure. That's why if you're falling asleep, if you're falling asleep, like, and then you're like trying to get out of your body or something, you're just having like this crazy jolt, so because your body's like, what the hell is going on? So, but
yeah, indeed. So
other stuff you talked about before.
Yeah, no problem. So what about this now? The transhumanist future, like I'm talking about, if you remove us from sort of that again, the ability to really connect with our five senses, and there's way more than five senses, but if you removed us from that, would we actually revert to like you just said, the primordial sounds of the original universe? Would we be communicating to each other like modems? And that's what's really on my mind tonight, combining a couple ideas and trying to be like, wait, so if you do this and we're all in these servers, like in the same room or in the different parts of the world connected through the internet, and we're not going to talk like this, because speaking like this to each other is completely inefficient. I'm going to misspeak, you're going to misspeak, we're going to say the wrong thing when we want to say the right thing, and all this stuff. But when you strip that down to, again, what we were talking about in communicating, cross species with dolphins, like shout out Night Stalker again, chittering and chattering at each other like dolphins, he said in the chat a ways up, or like R2D2 beeping and booping. You think this is where we're headed in the transhuman future of like Neuralinks? And then of course, beyond that, that's sort of a wireless experience. But what happens when there's a wireless experience of us as a glowing orb inside of a server? Do you think it'll revert all the way back to that? As I always wonder, the gravitational waves of the universe and that hum in the 369 of Tesla?
Well, at that point, it might go away if, let's see how, I think with like AI as an example of music, it's either going to go really good or really bad. You're going to have a lot of really fake sounding music because it's not authentic, or it's going to get better and more enhanced because there's some sort of connection with humans and AI. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't even, I try to appreciate things in real life. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it could just be like telepathic for you. You're tapped into it already. Instead of like pulling up Spotify on your phone, you're just thinking it and it's coming up, and that's like, your own, space, your universe. And that's how it's going to like, change if it happens like that. Maybe, but we should see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll say, like I always say, may you live in interesting times, and we certainly do. What else on the music and stuff? Do you think there's anything with Tesla and energy, frequency, vibration, 369, and sort of the secrets of the universe? And the reason I bring that up is I do think in some case we're headed back to that. It's like the source does its thing, whatever you want to call it, the monad, and then suddenly it's like we're always yearning to get back, though. I don't know. It's just a strange, it's sort of a strange human yearning to look into the cosmos and expect to hear something, and it's silence. It's just the crickets chirping, you know?
Yeah, he was way ahead of his time. I think he figured out, just had so much ideas, and he just knew how to run with them. So definitely, yeah, like, you know, the stuff we're probably talking on the phone with is probably, you know, fundamentally like involved with Tesla. So you got to respect that. But I think there's no way to really predict what was going to happen. But I think, yeah, it goes back to that. Like, just imagine if you could just utilize some of his like ideas. We wouldn't have to be paying power bills, you know. So.
Yeah, here it comes.
What can you do? Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That's here in Vegas when it's 115 degrees. By the way, we got all the bill up. I just want to add this to that. The power bills and whatnot. We got all this billing. It was going to be the hottest day in the history of Vegas. And we fell short by several degrees. Several degrees. I'm just saying. Hey, what's up with the weather people that can't actually predict the weather? It kind of pisses me off a little bit. Hey, come on. You had one job.
Yeah. Okay. They have it down in some places of the world with their
fair enough.
weather commentators are nice to look at. So
yeah, there you go. Back to the original Matt thought tonight. Yeah, amazing stuff. Like I said, I don't know, not trying to milk you of every thought you got, but if you have anything else, go right ahead. Or else I got tons of stuff to get to. Completely up to you.
No, it's just I don't know. I think the numbers thing, the Fibonacci thing, all that makes sense with why there's something that we're connecting into. You know, it's numbers crossing over. So much complicated stuff with that. Mathematics is super important. Physics comes in, and it's a lot of chaos. It's interesting you brought that up. Exactly why some people like that are like, say, for example, into Gnosticism, they're thinking just only chaos exists and it's the main thing. And then like so they're saying like maybe the cosmos or something, it's just like a big illusion or a prison for the spirit. I think that's interesting. I don't necessarily believe that, but I think that's what comes back down to some of that chaos. You mentioned, we were talking about the lights earlier, like they connect that with like Satanism and like Luciferianism, which is like the light bringer or whatever. So there's a lot of elements involved. Yeah. That was
I wonder if there's a translation there of who the sound bringer is. That's maybe worthy of some delving and some discussion and some figuring out what the hell's going on.
It's on some other higher dimension that we're like getting glimpses of, I think. So if we're evolving or de-evolving, you know, something like that, like depending on what's happening to us as a culture. So yeah,
and like right here we're like the light bringer, and then another place we're like the sound bringer, double O.
It's super interesting. So I appreciate the people that have called in before that have talked about these things. I was like, it sounds like a lot of things.
That's what we do, man. Mix all the ideas and see what we can get out of the cosmic blender. Yeah, fantastic stuff. I appreciate it very much. You got some music. You want to tell us about your album or whatnot? Where do we find your music?
So the song I was talking about, it's called Within the Stones. I have this band that's formed by the movie Moon, which is the movie made by David Bowie's son, Duncan Jones, I think. It's a band called Moon of Delirium. One of our songs is called Within the Stones, but the name Moon of Delirium is inspired by that movie, Moon. Yeah, if you know that one.
Yeah, I love it. Where do we find it? Is it SoundCloud or
so we have some Spotify. Yeah, Moon of Delirium on Spotify. We have that on there. Also another song that we like the album we put out, it's kind of long title, but it's called Submerged into the Abyssic Waters of the Ancient Earth, which is about like theories that I think may have happened with the original floods of the early days, like Atlantis and stuff. I'm not saying I believe it 100%, but I think there's some. It's another good example of a chorus that came to me one time. So I was like playing like a guitar riff with my drummer, and all of a sudden I was like just reading about this stuff, and it was like a long song title, but it's like Submerged into the Abyssic Waters of the Ancient Earth. It just kind of came together, and the riff works like perfect with it. I don't know how to explain how that came about, but that's also another track on the Moon and Delirium album. Yeah, so check it out.
Nice. Do me a favor. Drop me the link, either DM or whatever in the chat, and I'll put it on Friends of Troubled Minds as well. Okay, so we make sure we get people listening to your music, because it sounds like you're in the right place with the titles of those songs. I haven't heard them myself, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
One of my pseudonyms is on there, but yeah, I'll send you the link, man.
All right, perfect. Yeah. Appreciate it very much. You're the best. Jacob Harsher Boy. Yeah, you too. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this, and have a fantastic night. There you go. We're going to get him on Friends of Troubled Minds. As usual, look, this is what I'm saying. This is a collaborative. This is everybody's involved, and we want to talk about these things. It's philosophy. It's conceptualizing ideas when you mix them together. And look, I expect to be wrong a huge portion of the time, but also, like I always say, there's a sort of a freedom in not expecting or having the people you're having discussions with expect you to, like, bring the fire of truth every night, Mike, that type of thing. I'm like, you know what? Let's not. Let's instead think about this conceptually. Think about how, not just mythologically speaking, or, the monomyth with Joseph Campbell, and how all of this really fits into what it means to be human and how we've conceptualized it through folklore and mythology forever. And it does make me a little suspicious that something's happening that we can't really quantify, but it keeps doing that cyclical thing. And of course, audio and sound is a huge part of the human experience. So let's just call it a big fat maybe. And of course, give Jacob a follow there. We'll get his link up, troubledminds.org/friends. It'll say follow Jacob's music here, and please go listen because all that stuff helps, right? And by the way, if it's on Spotify, that means it's free. It means it's free. You can't beat free. If you're going to go listen to some stuff and do some stuff and help our friends free, you absolutely cannot beat it. We're talking about this and the idea of music as the beginning, but also music as the end. And let's say that it's not just these energy, frequency, vibration of Tesla, the 369, and sort of this business that we've always talked about, right? And there's this article here, all that's interesting, and it's like saying, these obsession, his 369 obsession with Tesla, and all the unusual theories it spawned. Really, though, can you really quantify what was in this man's mind? I mean, he was a highly germophobic, and he was, just incredibly, dare I even say, autistic. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. And you know what I mean? Like, some people are just, I don't know, like how do we quantify him at this point? Because it's so far removed from the modern day that everybody can have a hot take on this guy and tell you what to think. But I think it's very clear that Tesla was so far ahead of his time that we're still trying to catch up. And I think that's okay. I think it should be part of these discussions, because somebody as brilliant as this man should not be left to history. So here's the thing, right? We're talking about this, and this gets even more weird as you consider if we came from sound in the beginning, and like I'm saying, I'm changing the cosmos a little bit and going more with the Tolkien type stuff. If there in the beginning there was a harmony, nothing but sort of a celestial harmony by all the gods of the Ainur, A-I-N-U-R is how he said it. And then there was discord introduced. Melkor was the one, which of course is the patron saint of everybody knows Sauron, the Great Eye, and Middle Earth. Like I said, I'm going super nerd with the Silmarillion. If you guys don't know Tolkien mythology, it's really good. But it's also based on a lot of this same mythology that's been practiced the world over. We started with a bunch of examples tonight. But so it makes me wonder. So not just a couple things. I'm going to get back to what Jacob said in a sec too. But it makes me wonder if that sort of those frequencies of audio, those audio frequencies, energy, frequency, vibration, as Matthew put perfectly as we were starting tonight, in our atmosphere with our eardrum, sound is one thing. In space, it's another thing entirely. And so we have to extrapolate it and translate it to human consumption terms so we can hear it. And that's why, even in the old days, we always used to laugh when they're like, here's the sound of a black hole from NASA. Right. And it wasn't about me thinking that, black holes or space are fake or anything like that. But it was fully knowing how sound works in the atmosphere and how the eardrum works for the most part. Right. And how, right, there's like a vibrational thing happening. And then suddenly it's like, well, here's what the black hole sounds like. And then they play the tone and it's like or something like that. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. But that's totally not what a black hole sounds like. I mean, in space, right? Nobody can hear you scream in space. So anyway, you get my idea. You get the point here. But here's the thing, too. What Jacob was saying, and I agree 100% in a lot of ways, because look, there's a new theory that just popped, which is incredibly interesting, that our universe is 26.7 billion years old, astrophysicist claims. And as usual, look, back to shout out Graham Hancock, he says we're a species with amnesia. And he's saying that everything that we know is incredibly older, pre-flood, antediluvian, as they always say, which again, I've seen it attacked from so many different ways because it's against what mainstream science believes. And that's fine. The attacking people and stuff, it just gives me a bellyache. And that's why I don't do it. But notice that a lot of these theories end up making things older and older and older and older than they are. And this may be laughed at today. Our universe is 26.7 billion years old instead of, the 13 or 13.7 is previously estimated. But maybe it's right. Everybody laughed at Einstein until, he was right. So what's really going on here? And if we go back 26.7 billion years, what did it sound like in human terms? If you had an actual human eardrum, an actual universal atmosphere to echo sounds into your gray matter, what would it sound like? That's what I want to know. And more importantly, because of course that's just a weird question to ask, are we trying to get back to the cosmic beginning of sound itself through this transhumanistic effort? Beep, beep, boop, boop like R2-D2, beep, beep, boop, boop like the original modem. Is this how we're actually going to communicate with each other without the meat suit experience? 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds on Michael Strange. We've got David on the road and your calls when we return. Be right back. More on the way. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we discuss the original sound of everything. And of course, not just in this universe. We can talk multiverse. We can go super weird. But many mythologies the world over describe not in the beginning there was light, but in the beginning there was sound, including one of my favorites. It's fictional, but it's the Tolkien mythology of the Silmarillion. In the beginning, there was some sort of actual cosmic symphony, some sort of cosmic, perfectly rounded chorus of sounds. But then, of course, as usual, you always have to have the bad guy. And the bad guy and the darkness and human souls and all the rest of those things we always talk about as part of maybe built into the universe at large, unfortunately, really makes itself known in terms of harmony. Because if you've ever been in a band or been playing music and you have sort of this wall of sound situation going on, and it's nice, right? And you're like, you know what, this sounds good, whatever it is. But then somebody plays a discordant note, and I don't mean like in a good way, because if you're like a jazz guy, you're kind of flirting with the edges of discord all the time. It's part of it, right? It's part of music. It's sort of getting the ear used to, instead of the frequencies of the tones to expect a thing, you give them something else, and so it kind of tickles the brain a different way. But if somebody plays a discordant note, for instance, I was when I was young, we were playing. I can't remember the song. I think it was an old Pearl Jam song or something. We were doing a cover way back when, and it was not my band. I was just there for a second guitar and kind of playing along with these guys. And they were like, "Yeah, we need a guy. Can you hook us up with this for play a couple songs?" I'm like, "Sure, fine." And so I put my guitar in this little coffee shop over by the door and just put it on the stand. And a couple of songs later, I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. Like I know this Pearl Jam part. I'm gonna turn my volume down and play." Play like the sort of really high guitar part as they were like kind of really getting into it. I wasn't supposed to play on this song at all, but my guitar had been sitting by the door for I don't know, like 10 minutes or 12 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. A few songs. But what happened was it was it was warmer inside the place, but it was cooler outside, and my guitar was sitting by the door. And as you know, right, that type of stuff will detune your guitar slightly. And so the note I hit was like, everybody in the joint stared at me like I was the idiot. And I mean, I was trying to be fancy, but the guitar was out of tune. In any case, if you've ever heard like a slightly out of tune note like that should be here and it's there, everybody in the joint almost covers their ears. It's like, right? It's like I'm being attacked. I had one of those moments. In any case, we're talking about audio. We're talking about how it began. And of course, the primordial beginnings of what audio is. And are we in this transhumanist future actually trying to remove ourselves from this, not just auditory experience that humans are part of or are becoming, but also, let's say, every bit of it, the vision, the touch, the smell, everything. You remove us from it, do we actually go back to the sound itself, which is the beginning, or in many cultures is the beginning? I don't know. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. I see you guys both there. Let's go to David on the road. He beat you by just a sec, James. David, you're on Troubled Minds if you're there. And if we got he's a truck driver, as you know, and if he's got road issues, we'll go to James. But what's up, David? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend? Go right ahead. Test 1 2. Nothing. We probably only had 4 Discord updates today, so you're fine. This is fine. Can't hear you, man. Are you there? David on the road. Hello? Okay, he's going to restart the thing. We'll put him back. Yeah, just talking about these, again, how does this fit? And is it strange that we seem to be drawn to particular things? And how about this? Let's add this as a wrinkle to the conversation. If you had to, let's say, drop 1 sense, but you could amplify others, what would it be? Meaning you could not hear music ever again, but you could see better, or something like this. Would you do any of those things? And we'll talk to James in a sec about that exact thing in a moment. But let's go to David on the road. You're on Troubled Minds, my friend. How are you? And go right ahead.
How do I sound?
Better. It's working. Let me make sure there's no echo. How's the echo? I think we're good. No, echo's killed. Go ahead, sir. You're on Troubled Minds. Thanks for popping back in.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you're talking about sound, and I had this memory of this article I read about a sound chamber that they have. I think there's like 3 of them in the world, where it's made for industrial products, where they test sound quality and stuff like that, and how much noise something's making, and basically it's one of the most quiet chambers in the world, and they said the most someone could stand in there is like three minutes, and I think the most anyone stood in that room was probably less than 10, and it would just drive you crazy, and you just running out there screaming, because it's so quiet. Because basically what happens is you end up being the only sound in that room. So everything in your body that's making noise, you hear it. Yeah, exactly. So you're hearing your pulse, you're hearing your heart, you're hearing like the blood rush through your head, you're hearing like, I can't even imagine what, so the true sound of silence, if you remove everything around you, is not silence at all, because humans are just noisy little blood pumping machines. So you hear like all this nasty like squishing and pumping and gross, like probably if your stomach growls, you probably hear it in 3D. I mean, that makes sense to me. pretty gross. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I didn't have much to say. I just my connection's a little buggy. I was just thinking about that, and think about other things, but I think that's all I needed to talk about. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're loud. Yeah, that's why we do this, man. It's you never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates, and you were on the road even battling the road and crazy drivers while also calling Troubled Minds. So I appreciate it very much. You were the best. Thanks for calling. Thanks for being you, and be safe out there. Okay.
Thank you.
You're the best.
I'll talk
That's
to you later.
David.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, you two. That's David on the road, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. He's a fantastic guitar player, if you didn't know. And he's got a YouTube channel where he's doing some of that stuff, and you can see him all kinds of different content, sort of a variety show of sorts with David's YouTube channel. Check it out. He's a truck driver, and like I said, and I love to point this out when he calls, because it's just a reminder to me that there is that invisible process. I talk about the economy, and the powers that be are like, oh, well, the economy is very strong. Well, you know what makes the economy very strong? People like David there. People that are driving overnight while we're sleeping to make sure groceries are there. People that are stocking those groceries overnight, like Derek, the Night Stalker. People like me that are delivering food and doing things like this while people are like, being lazy and not getting their own stuff. I mean, the invisible process is real, that people don't ever think about. There's a human toll to it, and there's a lot of people that are a part of it. So don't ever forget, when people talk about the economy as statistics and math, it's people. 702-957-1037. Give David a follow, troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow David here. Check out his YouTube channel. Amazing stuff. He's got a particular clip, by the way, where he's in a parking garage with like natural acoustics playing his electric guitar. Go check that out. Let's go to, we're still talking these, again, a transhumanist cosmic symphony. And my whole premise tonight is, if in the beginning there was sound, and again, we're kind of eschewing the idea of God said the word and the word was light, and light was a thing, and whatever, I butchered that. But let's say it wasn't that. Let's say it was sound instead. Let's say sound was sort of permeating the primordial universe. And then somehow, some way, once you remove us from our meat suit experience, are we going to maybe transition back to sound in this sort of R2D2 old school modem beep beep boop boop sort of way? Is this really the basis of, like as said earlier, like a cymatic experiment of us maybe just shouting into the darkness, expecting an echo to come back? I don't know. What are your thoughts? 702-957-1037. James in Michigan, you're on Troubled Minds, my friend. How are you, bro? Go ahead.
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Sounding great.
Good. I'm glad that there's sound. That's always good when you're doing a show.
Audio is good.
At least usually anyway. But yeah, great topic. And so a couple things. The first thing I was going to mention, we kind of covered out just a minute ago. Silence, I don't think you can really have silence if you have any sense of hearing. If you have regular or better than average sense of hearing, there is not going to be real silence. I don't think that's possible. Even if your surroundings are quiet, you're going to hear your movements. It's amazing what you can hear if you just sort of pay attention to it more than maybe you usually do. Again, we're always so focused on what we sort of used to get by, and from what I've heard, a lot of people focus mainly on what they can see. And as someone who can't see very well, I've always focused instead on what I can hear. Because again, in my situation, I also have no sense of smell and limited senses of touch and taste, and then the low vision. So hearing things and really even feeling vibrations, I think that's almost another form of hearing. It's just you're not hearing maybe with your ears necessarily. You're hearing with your whatever part of your body that these vibrations are impacting.
Yeah, well, that's well said. And like we were talking about when Matthew first called in, so sound is interesting because we experience it very differently than possibly the rest of the entire cosmos. I mean, surely there's going to be, maybe similar atmospheres and similar sort of eardrums. Let's say, call it a alien hearing apparatus. Maybe that. Maybe these are things, but also even in we talk about sort of the human prism and the filter and what we are, and only so much we can absorb anyways. We still have there's inaudible audio that's literally testable audio that we still can't hear. It's too high or too low or things like this. Even go to Havana syndrome. and say that sort of these directed energy type of weapons or things like this still can make us sick or ill or brain damage or all the rest of this, but we still can't hear it. But notice the dogs and animals around us, like for instance, like a earthquake, tsunami situation. The animals just clear out because they hear it. They're like, "What the hell is that?" Like, you hear that thing way the hell out there? Let's get the hell out of here. And the animals bounce, and the humans are playing on the beach stupidly. I mean, welcome to the imperfect meat suit, James. I'm sure you know full well.
Yeah, and it's really odd. I can sort of get that in a way because there are certain sounds that some people don't hear that electronics will give off that, to me, they drive me crazy. If there's no other sounds in the area, but the sound of a device, of a TV, like a TV, like a monitor or a TV screen, or just certain devices that are just on but not playing anything. If there's no other sounds, that really irritates me personally. And I can tell a lot of times when there's a device on in a room, even if there's no music or TV playing. I had that happen once with a family member. Their TV wasn't working right, or at least they didn't think it was. And they were pressing the button to turn it on, and nothing was showing up on the screen. And I said, "Oh, it's on." And they're like, "No, it's not on." And then, of course, it turned on. The image turned on as they were saying that. And I was like, "Yeah, it was on. You can stop pressing the button now."
Yeah, the old, it reminds me of an old radio song, Karma Police, arrest this man, he buzzes like a fridge. He's like a detuned radio. It's the lyric from that song. But I mean, that's the thing too. So, and some people can hear it. Ouroboros Stargate in the chat says, within the sound of silence, I hear buzzing too. It's from the vacuum. It's from the back. And so maybe, and so here's the thing too. So let's take this, well, let's get what you got first. And then I got an angle for you, but what else you got? Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking of the other thing that we've been talking about is it's amazing to me how emotion can be connected to sound, but we can all be listening to the same sounds or music, and it can cause different emotions because everyone has different tastes in music and in what they like to hear, and even the kinds of sounds they like to hear. I've heard some people say that they find like metal music really relaxing. And I've heard bits and pieces of it before, and I do not find it relaxing, but people do. So is that sort of a way to almost identify our souls? Are we all made up of these sort of resonances to different sounds, and each soul is just a combination of maybe these different frequencies and energies that that's why we all have such different tastes in things.
Yeah, it could be. That's an entirely, I think, probably, I'm not sure we'll need an angle there, but why do people have different tastes subjectively in terms of music? Because you're right. Like I'm split too on metal. Like some metal, I'm like, yeah, this is so good, and some metal, I'm like, it just gives me an instant headache. it's like, oh god. But why? Like, is it the compression of the guitars? Is it the way the drums are? Is it like, I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting ways to kind of look at this in terms of how sound actually affects us as people. Yeah, absolutely wild stuff. I don't know. And I think the interesting thing too is, I don't know, like this may be a whole nother show as well, or maybe we can loop it into the next one when this happens, because it'll be several weeks from now. I'll make a note. But do you think that, like, for instance, our taste palette changes? When you're young, you may hate Brussels sprouts or whatever, but then given 20 years later, you're like, wow, this is the tastiest thing I've ever had. You just sprinkle a little bacon on there, a little oil and some pepper, and you're like, damn, this is really good. But like when you were young, you're like, get that crap away from me. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I wonder if the same thing is prevalent for sort of an audio palette, if that's even such a thing. Your take there?
Yeah, I would say it's not impossible. Just given, I think part of it has to do with sort of our environments and how much of things, the same things we're exposed to all the time. But also, I don't think that's 100% of everything, because I grew up with a family that was really deep into classic rock, and so the first 20 years of my life or so, I had no interest in like the music that was out at the time, like in the 90s and early 2000s. I had next to no interest in much of any of that, and didn't start getting into it until like 10 years ago. And so I think it can just depend. I think it's a mix of that's kind of funny thinking of it this way. I think it's a mixture, almost like the nature versus nurture comparison thing. What you sort of come here with, possibly, what energies you're made of when you get here in this form, but then also what you are, what the environment is like around you. And I wonder how much that plays into all this as well.
Yeah, it could be. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. Sort of, we sort of get what we ask for. We get, if we have got like sort of chaotic and just nutters energy constantly. It's almost like it comes back to us sort of chaotically as well. It's like we're calling out through our actions into the cosmos itself. Chaos, and so we get chaos back. I don't know. Again, like I said, that would be a massive scientific undertaking to like sort of quantify those types of things. But I think you would get, again, just a hunch. I think you might get some sort of bell curve whereby the meditative state, or monks in Tibet, or whatever. And I don't mean that in like a I just mean that like sort of being, if you were mindful and or not, and causing drama and chaos or not, sort of like a reciprocal karmic thing, but in frequency and tones. And it's almost like it comes back to you, right? It's like whatever you put out comes back, and it always comes back. That thing itself, which is, again, like I said, everything I know about esoterics comes from Dungeons and Dragons, and every greater thought beyond that comes from Star Wars, dare I say. But what I mean is, so in Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker went into the tree on Dagobah with Yoda. Yoda said to him, Luke went to put on his belt with his weapons, his blaster and his lightsaber, and Yoda said, "Your weapons, you will not need them." And Luke did it anyway. And basically he told him, what you find in there is what you bring in there. And he goes in with his weapons, expecting danger, expecting a fight, expecting something. And he gets a fight. He gets this sort of image of Darth Vader that comes out of the darkness at him. They have again, this is if I'm spoiling like a 40-year-old movie, well, go watch the movie. What's wrong with you? But he brings the danger with him. If he had dropped it and brought peace with him, would he have maybe met his mother that he never met? You know what I'm saying? This is the type of stuff. Maybe this is the reciprocal frequency of the way the universe works, and maybe we're just too stupid to be able to realize it.
Yeah, I don't know. That makes me think of the other thing I wanted to bring up is, and you mentioned it earlier just briefly, the whole EVP thing. I think that a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight also can be part of the paranormal. Because if you think of almost every weird experience out there, what do they all have in common with music and with just life in general? There's emotions. And is that part of, and we know that, emotions, they can cause supposedly paranormal activity in and of themselves in some cases. People can affect things around them, whether it's electronics or just make objects move with their own energy supposedly. And then if you have that with entities that don't have the same physical body, but they are still human, but they're existing as this energy or this vibration, then how does that play in everything? And is that how maybe someday the whole transhumanism thing would work out? We would go into these devices, but then maybe we wouldn't be stuck there. Maybe they would just be almost temporary homes if we wanted them, but we could still go out and sort of be almost like paranormal beings ourselves, doing whatever we feel like we want or need to do. And of course that could go good or bad or indifferent.
Or worse. or worse than that. Yeah, or better than that. I think that's the thing too. Like, we're sort of resonating wherever we are. Yeah, and we hear this too. It's sort of in New Age circles, right? And I used to roll my eyes, be like, oh yeah, the density of the things, and you are my density, and all the things, and right? Like, what the hell does that even mean? But when you start to realize that you know people, when let's say somebody comes up to you in public and they're just sort of not right. You know what I mean? Not right. And
yeah,
you kind of feel like sort of a dangerous thing. You feel a dangerous vibe. And they didn't say anything, and they didn't do anything to make you believe that. It's just you sort of are like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this and just make sure that I'm watching my back in this moment, because something doesn't feel right. And so we sort of carry our own song around in terms of what we expect to get back from the vibration we present. And who said it? What's up in the chat? Somebody said in the chat. I'll find it. We'll read it when we come back. But yeah, I got another question for you. Unless you got more. If you got more, go right ahead, sir.
Well, the last thing I want to say regarding the sort of the paranormal and the transhumanism and all the sort of the course of what humanity might become, I've heard stories of people who have claimed they've had past or other lives where they're not human. So, and I just wonder, how do we know, again, going sort of against, not really against, but sort of the opposite end of what Matthew was talking about, how do we know that someday we won't be able to transfer into technology? I don't think we can know for sure. But at that point, then again, why can't we transfer out and just be out there? Isn't that sort of pure consciousness that can then do whatever it wants?
Yeah, sort of that long form evolution, like we're always talking about. So it's like okay, you start again, like I said, believe the evolution thing for a second. If you don't, that's fine. Like the agnostic in all ways, but just take it conceptually and be like, all right, we were, like a amoeba in the ocean or whatever, right? like 22 billion years ago. But then like suddenly here we are. But so what is the end? If you turn it on its head and look the other direction, where is it headed? Is it literally coming back to just the pure energy essence of the universe itself? And that's why I'm suggesting that sort of that evolutionary spot into transhumanism maybe is going back to where we began, which is the tones and the sounds of bumper music, because we're out of time. Final thought, James.
Yeah, and maybe once we are just that pure consciousness, some of us do go back to the beginning. If time is not an issue, then it could be just one huge cycle.
Amen. Jay Christ on Rockfin says, spot on. We are frequency, and frequency is a learned tolerance. Our tune is our song. Well said, sir. We're here talking with James Salcedo. Give him a follow. A really good friend of mine. You know him, you love him. He's got his own show called Salcedo Paranormal. Links in the description. troubledminds.org/friends. Or just search it, Salcedo, Salsido Paranormal. You're the best, brother. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being you. We'll be back. More Troubled Minds on the way. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are calling random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
We got, all right, so maybe
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. from somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're talking about sounds, but not just sounds, right, like you would expect. We're talking about the primordial sounds, but not just the primordial sounds, because of course this is Troubled Minds, and one idea, two ideas, three ideas, four. Well, we're talking about maybe us trying to find ourselves, evolutionarily speaking, in the long count calendar back to the same primal sounds. And what I mean is, of course, music inspires us. Music consoles our melancholy. Music is the one of the fundamental bases of what it means to be human. Now, if you remove that, whether that's drum patterns at Stonehenge, whether that's dire flutes in the deep dark of Azathoth, or something else, it seems as if we're missing something. I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it. I'm not even sure what life would be like without music. Can you imagine a place, an alien place, wherein the music itself was not audio as we determine it, as we hear it, as we experience it, but instead, let's say music was some sort of visual symphony, some sort of a constant fireworks show, and it was how the alien individuals on a particular planet, nondescript because I wouldn't know a name, or the individuals there, who knows what they are because I wouldn't be able to describe them. But imagine if they could actually perceive audio elements and be inspired and be whatever music does through this constant fireworks show. I mean, you start to see that the world, of course, not just our world, but the worlds out there are weird, or going to be weird, or can be weird, or should be weird. And us being human-centric, we're just like, hey, this is normal. Mamitsu, turn on Megadeth and rock out, or whatever, right? Turn on some old Radiohead and be like, yeah, this is the jam. Or turn on some old Tchaikovsky and be like, yeah, no, this is the jam. This is a genius. But imagine if that light show sticks in somebody's mind and you're able to sort of close your eyes and replay the fundamental emotion that the light show gave you, sort of like a 4th of July fireworks spectacle. Who knows? Lots of ways to look at this in alien styles. But of course, the reason I'm talking about this tonight is because there's a lot of information in the news cycles, which is what I do, by the way. It's just kind of that Synchro-Mystic Life. Shout out to Derek the Night Stalker. Chris Knowles of the Secret Sun blog. There's a lot of individuals. Montauk, Tom of the Montauk at montauk.net, MONTALK. There's a lot of people out there that are really tuned into what's happening in the zeitgeist. And I noticed tonight, I was sort of going through some stuff, and even it dawned on me so late that I wasn't able to properly put the show together like I wanted to. But I was like, all right, so here's what I thought to start, and then I transitioned to, as I found more and more things sort of linking up in my mind. I've got an article from Science Alert. Experiment shows humans really can hear silence after all. As David said, there's sort of these rooms and places where people are supposedly going in there and hearing their heartbeats and the squishiness of their stomach and the blood rushing through their brain and things like this. And so there is no true silence from a human perspective. But also, so if there is, and you can cut off all the audio sound gates or noise gates or whatever you want to call these things in the digital darkness, as I call it, with the microphones and the internet and all this stuff, right? If you can do that, here we go. Do some, anybody like some ASMR? Do a little bit of that business. If you're freaking out, I'm really sorry. I'll stop. But there's like, I don't know, that like this audio is a very powerful thing, is my point. And in many religions the world over, mythologies, they suggest that the sound we hear was first, not the light as suggested, but sound. And so my premise tonight is not just this weird stuff with the experiment shows humans really can hear silence after all, but there is no silence. Or is there? And not only that, the primordial sound of the chorus of the gods of old, the primordial gods, again, go back to the Silmarillion, the Tolkien beginnings. And there was harmony until there was discord. And, well, it resonates a lot of ways with me. And the reason I'm bringing it up again, a lot of things in the news cycle, humans can really hear silence. Our brains may process silence and sounds the same way, from science.org. This is from phys.org. Acoustics researchers decompose sound accurately into its three basic proponents. Three, of course, makes my tinfoil tingle because Nikola Tesla was obsessed with 369, energy, frequency, vibration. And, of course, it makes me wonder about a transhumanist future wherein we exit the meat suit experience and try to find our way back to the primordial sound. And, of course, I mean the old modems. Beep, beep, boop, boop. I mean R2-D2. Boop, 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 boop. Whatever he was doing to Luke Skywalker, but Luke Skywalker understood. You get it? Are we actually evolving to the base sound of the universe? Going back to the source through audio. Because, of course, it inspires us like crazy. Of course, again, this is all audio, by the way. This is all audio. The radio show is just audio. Just one guy talking into a digital darkness with all his amazing friends out there. And what do you think? Love to hear your thoughts on this. Yep. 702-957-1037. If the ASMR creeps you out, maybe we'll have an ASMR Michael Strange show coming up. Let's do it. Yes. One way to get on your incredible last nerve is to do exactly that. Let's go to MJ in Virginia. You're on Troubled Minds, my friend. How are you tonight? Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm great. Doing great, Mark. How are you?
Doing well. Having fun. Just messing with the audio stuff. Audio to me is magic, man. What is it to you?
Well, you mentioned a few things, and they've been testing, I guess, just for a few years, like with singers or your voice. And there are frequencies above to make the tone you're hearing. You're coming out of, you're hearing me talk right now. It's coming out of my mouth. It actually has 7 layers above that are too high pitched for you to hear in order to make this sound that I'm making now. So when you talked about going back to frequencies and whatnot, it's like if I don't know if you ever went to the disco stage, dance and dance floor, and they had the thumpa sound going, but they play like basic music, or it's tribal music, and when you have like a bunch of people dancing, and it's just got that heavy beat to it. It's lower tones, so it's always tribal. And you notice whenever they play a different song, it's got different tones to it, a little higher tone that we can hear, and it usually breaks up the dance floor and people leave. There's a reason for all that, because sometimes the higher tones, even though we don't recognize them, we can hear them. It's just you're hearing those higher tones in my voice right now, but you're not hearing the high tone by itself. Okay? When you have, let's say you're out in the woods talking, and a deer 3 miles away can hear your voice, but it does not hear the voice you're hearing. It hears the higher tones. Dogs can hear it. When you go to yell at an animal, you think because of the voice you have that you just yelled with, like a dog or a cat or anything, they like tower down like, oh my God. I was like, they're not just hearing this tone, they're hearing the higher frequency simultaneously. So they're just hearing several tones out of that. So when you talk about leaving your meat suit and going back to primordial, you're going back to my assessment is you're going back to the way things were.
It feels that way. It really feels that way. And so what you're describing with the animals and whatnot, there's with dogs, and I've had some dogs in my life, and there's what they call like an emergency voice that you never use. Like if a dog's about to run into a street, you sort of have like this like, right, like sort of that type of thing where they freeze and they just lay down, because it's not just like the command they hear. Like you're saying, there's like some tonal resonance, some timbre in your voice that is so jarring from what they're used to that it literally freezes them in place, because it is, as we always talk about, sort of mind control for the masses, audio and video and all the rest of the stuff happening. In that case, right, it's good because they're trained very well, the dogs, and I'm not equating people to dogs in that sense, but I'm just saying that like what you're describing is sort of that tonal timbre resonance of a voice. And also, by the way, it's an interesting thing. I know MJ here is a fantastic singer. Regarding singers, how come some singers, by the way, you don't have to sing, I'm not going to make you sing, but I'm going to ask you this question though. Regarding singers, how come some can be tonally perfect and be boring, but some singers can be tonally perfect or even imperfect and be mesmerizing? How does that work? Like I said, it's a very weird thing in the timbre of the voice instrument, and how it actually plays. But I think it's part of that resonant to the human soul in some sense, right? Like there's like I don't even know how to really describe it, but I know that everybody out there knows what I'm talking about, because some singers, you hear them and you're like, oh God, shut up. And some sing, and like even if they sing badly, you just love it. It's nuts. Explain that to me, my friend.
It's personality. Their personality comes through their voice. And that also, in its sense, is a frequency. I have, my neighbor has a cute, he was a cute little pit bull puppy. God, he was so cute. And you had to be so careful with your voice. When you talk to him, it had to be soft and a very accepting voice, a very palatable voice for him to hear. And it had to be like a voice that would draw him in, because if he got an instant, a millisecond of, I don't want you near me, he was gone. He could feel it he was that sensitive to it. And I have to be careful, because he likes to come over. He's, sees me, it's like barking on his chain, like, hey, it's like, no. So I have to talk to him and use the attitude and the voice of, there's a wall here with my voice, and you just stay there. So when you hear people singing, they're just like, yeah, they're great singers, but it's like, God, it's so placid. It's like, there's no personality when they're singing, and you have to exude your personality through your voice. And once you do that, that's what makes it. And some people, you're right, they're not very good singers, but they can project that personality in their voice and their emotions, their feelings. All that goes along with it.
It plays, and that's called a timbre. That's called the timbre in your voice, and it's a thing. Like but it plays too with like this format. Like we scratch the and scrape the people out again. Like it plays in sort of like a warm, resonant voice. I mean, we're talking about like the dark cosmic void. But if I had a different voice, would people listen? I mean, a different personality, would people listen? I mean, we've got a lot of examples of that, of people probably way smarter than me, probably people that have way greater insights into really the way that everything works. But also, it can't get some traction with people listening because maybe they don't sound so warm and resonant. I mean, all that plays, all this stuff plays in terms of, I guess life is music, I guess you would say. Am I right?
In a sense, yeah. You're talking about frequencies and whatnot. Humans can hear the higher frequencies. We just don't recognize them. When you hear my voice, you're also hearing the higher frequencies in it, but we don't recognize them. We can't pick them out. We can't separate them. Wild animals can. If you ever, I don't know how much you've been in the country, but let's say the birds panic over something, they fly off. My cats react, then the dog reacts, and then the deer out back, they take off. It's like suddenly, what just happened? But one species gets panicky. It's a reaction of sound, because they start chirping a certain way that sets off the cats. The cats are listening. The dogs are usually somewhere in there, and the deer hear it. They panic and run. So there was a frequency or an alarm system that went up to panic, to warn everybody what's been going on. That's how nature works. But when you're talking about personality stuff, it's some people can just talk away, and you're just like, shh, you're right, shut up, you're just boring. And they may have the best message in the world, but it's like, shut up. You're not saying anything, and because they don't have the person projecting it, their voice is not drawing you in. Like, oh my God, some people can tell a story, and the next person standing to them can tell the exact same story and the exact same words, and you're going to walk away in less than 30 seconds. They just have a voice of drawing you in, but it's the personality, the want and the need of the voice that's attracting you in. It's like, how can some people be good with animals and others just can't relate? They can't do it, but others know how to draw them in and, sense them and be with them. That takes a bit of a talent, but that's a frequency within a tone. It's also a frequency within the body that you're putting out. So it's not just voice. You can walk up to somebody or something, like an animal or person, and put out, get away. And, and you just walk into a room. Have you ever walked into a room and then suddenly people turn around and look at you?
Every day, MJ, every day. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
And you're
I'm just being funny.
Never mind. Anyways.
I'm just being funny.
But I've done that. We walk in, it's like suddenly people just turn around and look at you, and it's like, what did I just do? I was putting out this welcome mat of energy, and they turn around and they felt it's like some of your best entertainers have this magnetic personality on the stage, and they draw you in. Bette Midler is one of them. She's really good at that, and they just draw you in. You're like mesmerized, and maybe they're not doing the best performance, but they have that magnetic personality. Judy Garland, she was another one. Liza Minnelli, she was another one. She wasn't the best singer. She was a good singer, but she had this magnetic personality. You're just mesmerized, and you just go in. You're in there. People, it's personality, but that's also a form of frequency. And then you hear the voice on top of that. That's just doubles up the frequency. It brings the tone in. So they're sharing their entire embodied self with you, and also manipulating you with you. Once they learn how to do that and how it affects people, then they can affect you with your frequencies and tones. I mean, that's what happens. The better singers, they know how to affect their crowd. They know how to play them. Or a good comedian, he knows how to play the crowd and get what he needs out of the crowd.
Yeah, all that plays. And notice though, so there's some things, I'm on camera here, and I'm not the best. I'm not the best at this. I'm okay plus. But there's there's some, like, you make the right facial expression, you laugh at yourself, you do this, you do that. It's all part of the thing. But also there's some people that are masters that can say something and then sort of freeze their facial expression. And then it's sort of, you're like, wait, like your brain is kind of like in between, like, is this funny or not? And then they make a funny face. And then you just start laughing. Like it literally evokes emotion based on not just the tonality and the joke and the timing and the this and the that, or the song and everything it plays, but then also even, eye contact and facial expressions and this type of stuff. It's as I always say, why we should be incredibly wary of personalities, of manipulation, of any of these things, because as we can be inspired by all of this, we can also be manipulated by all this, and it's an important concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what the entertainers do. They manipulate you, maybe in what they want, but it's in a nice way. They're entertaining. They want to be entertainers. They have the ego for it, or the insecurities for it, and then you're the one that wants to be entertained. So you go to them, and you're entertained by them. And then it's a nightly thing. It's not like they've got it down pat. They've got to feel the crowd out when they get there, and then they start feeding that back to you, and you feed it back to them, and it becomes very symbiotic in that sense. It's the same way a riot can become very symbiotic. They can put out certain things, and people react, and it goes haywire. It's just a matter of tones and frequencies. And I think they go hand in hand, and they're also very separate.
Yeah, well, but also there's like the mob, they kind of like the sort of that the egregore, the tulpa of the moment, where the man in the back said everyone attack and it turned to a ballroom blitz, like that type of thing. It's like everybody's like kind of agitated and here, like mad and like what's up, and then one person says get him, and then everybody's like yeah, like that's a thing too. That's a thing too, man. It's absolutely a thing. But notice it's so it still comes back to frequency. It still comes back to audio. It still comes back to sort of the vibes that people give each other. And like I always say, like there's it's not the 5 senses, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 20 senses, or even more than that. We're just sort of some people are more in tune with those, and some people are completely oblivious.
Well, I would put the oblivious part in, but they are attuned to them, but they're oblivious. They just don't want to bother. Because I had an experience with somebody, and they were feeling it, and nothing was said, but they just turned around and said, you know what, I can't be bothered. I was like, okay. I didn't say a word, they didn't say a word, but I was like approaching them, and they just flipped around and said, I can't be bothered. They felt everything. And they told me that they couldn't be bothered. There was no word, there was no words passed. Nothing. I thought, oh, okay, got it. And it's kind of, and when that happens, it's a little eerie because it's like there was no conversation, but there was a massive energy exchange between two people. Okay. When you are doing readings, the exact same thing happens, but the person that's the, supposedly psychic is massively going in and grabbing that person's, and not just, it's not a symbiotic situation sometimes. It is going in and grabbing that person's frequencies and their tones, and you're listening to the reading or visualizing the reading, and that also the visualization, the pictures come through a tone also. It's a very silent tone, but that's what also happens with it. And the intuitive is there, but it's all, it's tones and frequencies. It's just a connection that we still don't understand very well. And when you go through that, it's like when you, I was doing readings on the phone, right? Okay. And people start talking, I start visualizing, and I was using their voice to visualize what they were talking about. And that's basically how I got my training, was on the phone first, into prompt training. And I started realizing that I was picking up these pictures through their tones of their voice. So your frequencies and your tones actually are educational and provide tons of information about somebody. They're trying to do that electronically, but they're never going to get it. There's just stuff missing on that they're never going to get.
I think so. I think, like I said, there's a sort of a warmness of a voice. There's there's a lot of things that sort of are at play there, and sometimes like it's accidental. Like how do we know? I'm sort of a lucky SOB in terms of that people say, oh, Mike, you got the great radio voice. I'm like, hey, talk to the technology. Like my voice isn't really like this. It's just a little bit of the bass and a little bit of compression, and here you go, right? But I mean, I don't know, man. Like the world's a crazy place, that's for sure. We're out of time. What else you got? And then we're done.
That's about it, really. I mean, it's just when you're around people, pay attention to the energies you put out and the tone of voice you're using with them.
Amen.
And you'll get a better response. If you want something from them, you can get a better response, but then they can tell whether you're faking it or not, too. So,
Well said. Well said. You're the best. We're out of time. MJ in Virginia, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Thanks for the call. We'll talk to you soon. Have a fantastic night. 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds with Michael Strange. We'll be right back. More on the way. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. Sorry for those terrible commercials. What we're doing tonight is we're talking about the meat space exit. Now, this is a new term, by the way. I've been calling this meat suit for quite some time, being human and all the rest, and how this works and how it doesn't work. And I don't know, I think it's part of literally the conversation of Troubled Minds as one of the backbones, because conceptually, right, like how do we imagine what it's like to be outside of the human experience, okay? And some people are a little more imaginative, some people are a little less imaginative, and those in that sense, right? And that's fine. That's all good. I'm not trying to, make you always dream cosmically or make you think locally. Whatever you want to do, you do you, and that's cool. Because I think we need all these things. Honestly, I believe it. And there was a point in my life, and I can't even describe when it happened or why or when or any of that stuff. I don't know. But again, just some background on me. I grew up in California, if anybody gives a damn. Very, very secular, very, progressive, very all those things, right? And I was always very anti-religious. But also then, I'm not sure what clicked in me, but at some point I understood and realized, and I think this is the truth now, and I was wrong young and I'm getting more right now, is that those sort of religious ideas aren't garbage. I mean, I was part of a culture war and never realized it. I just didn't understand that, there are different ways to look at the world, and those ways are okay. It's I don't know. It's one of those things where you say to people, if you're the same as us, you're okay, but if you're different than us, you're dangerous and terrifying. And it was kind of like that, right? And it's like, wait. So why don't you go talk to those people? Like, it just dawned on me. Maybe it was all these years of just talking on this show, and maybe it clicked before that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But come on now. Like, do we really think that there's only one way of thinking about the world? Because that seems absurd to me. Incredibly absurd, incredibly propagandist, incredibly obtuse, cosmically obtuse. That's a whole show right there. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. That's the thing to me. And so I started to realize that there's wisdom everywhere. There's wisdom to be had everywhere. Just don't ignore it. Like, some people are like, source the thing. It's like, okay, fine. That's cool. But wait, what about the thing that was said? Is that fine or is it not? They're like, depends on the source. I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. As always, everything's complicated, and I think that's part of the reason why I was inspired to do Troubled Minds, because I do understand that it's not about who believes what, right? To me, it's about what we believe together collectively. Because it's not one thing, it's not two things, it's not 30 things, it's billions of things. Suddenly, once you start to think that and realize that, wow, there's a lot of things out there, the world becomes an amazing place. You get it? And so that's there you go. There's a basis of what Troubled Minds is all about. I don't know. So the question tonight is the original primordial sounds. And we've talked about this before in several concepts, different angles. As always, I'm trying to find a new angle to talk about these things. But the weird part about this one is that we have new science. Again, our brains, this is from science.org, our brains may process silence and sounds the same way. But then, as we discussed earlier, there's silence. Is there true silence in a meat suit? Because we hear our stomach gurgling and our bones creaking and our blood pumping and our heart beating, and so is there such thing as silence? And so, as usual, a lot of nuance in these conversations and how we interpret data and information, and how. Thank you to Jacob Harsher-Boy. I'll drop that your Spotify stuff into. Friends at Troubled Minds. By the way, if you guys haven't followed all the fine folks at troubledminds.org/friends, you probably should. And by the way, you're welcome too. Big Tent Conspiracy, like I say, this is not about trying to cut anybody out because of what they believe or any of that stuff. Like I said, just don't be a bigot. I mean, don't be so obtuse that you're like, oh, these types of people are good and those types of people are bad. Because I'm gonna be like, well, logically, no. Stop. That's it. Don't be dickheads to each other, and we're good. All right. So this is the thing. So weird stuff regarding this, but then they also got this thing, phys.org. All the links are going to be in the description, of course, if you want to read up on this stuff. And look, if you're a scientific mind and you have to go through every meticulous detail, that's cool. Like I said, I do enjoy that type of stuff. I just don't have time for that. I'm like the hip shooter philosopher where I'm like, okay, let's combine some ideas, watch the news cycles, and then talk about some amazing stuff, right? But if I literally spent meticulous time going through every single data point and checking and triple checking every damn thing, there would be no troubled minds. That's not what this is. It's not science. It's philosophy. It's a simple thing to me. But also, by the way, like, you become the enemy in some cases because people don't get it. They're like, oh, this hip shooting asshole. He's anyway, whatever. A researcher has been looking for ways to decompose music. Let's do this actually. Hold on, I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you an AI trick, by the way, in case you guys never wanted to read all this nonsensical. And no offense to the journalists out there, I just kind of don't like the I talked to a Jimmy and a Jamie and a Johnny and a Joe, and then I put it on the thing, and then, an article starts that way. Like, just, hey, look, give me the data. See, I just did two things in one 3-minute space. I did two exact opposite things. If I'm reading an article, just give me the data. Well, there's this plugin which doesn't pay me. It's called Wise One. And if you click the thing right here and then hit summarize, you get the whole article without all the conversations and the journalist jargons and the talking points and all. It's like, boom, there you go, summarized. Researchers at Aalto University Acoustics Lab have developed an enhanced method for decomposing sound into its 3 basic components: signs, transients, and noise. Now, signs, of course, are sine waves, S-I-N-E. This method, which combines ideas from auditory perception, fuzzy logic, and perfect reconstruction, was found to be the most effective in a listening test compared to previous methods. Okay, good. Audio, science, good for me. The researchers believe that this new sound decomposition method has many exciting applications, including improving the quality of slow motion audio and enabling distortion-free dynamic range compression in music mixing. Which, of course, as we always talk about, could be a new way to brainwash you and me. So don't ever be fooled. And by the way, when I say this, I completely mean this. Don't ever be fooled by me. Don't ever be fooled by anybody or any of this stuff. Always think critically in your own space of who you are and the information you get, no matter where it comes from, which is why I always link my sources. It's incredibly important to me that you guys know where the inspiration comes from. Shout out all the fam out there. You guys are inspiring me every single day. And all these news, sort of the news cycles and these actual news articles, because it's important to me to not just be like, oh, I'm the smartest guy in the world because I read 3 news articles and let me tell you all about it. No, stop. 702-957-1037. We're talking about audio and how it fits. These acoustic researchers breaking down sound into its 3 basic components. You think that's possible? Interestingly, making my tinfoil tingle, Nikola Tesla's obsession with 369, frequency, energy, vibration, and how the world actually works. But not just the world, the greater universe at large. And that's that. I don't know. What do you know about it? And let's do it. Taking your calls and your questions and your ideas and all the things. You guys are all amazing. Thanks for being part of this. Let's go to Jay in New York. What's up, my man? Long time no talk. Where the hell have you been? You're on Troubled Minds. Unless you butt dialed me, then we got a different story. Then I'll pivot. Jay may have butt dialed me. Jay in New York. You're on Troubled Minds.
Except you guys do these updates every day and every day. I'm 50. I'm 50 years old. I can't be learning something new every day.
Yeah,
when it comes to
the damn Discord updates, right? It's fine. It's fine. All right. Anyway,
green button. Green means go.
All right, green means go. You're fine. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend? Been a minute. I haven't talked to you. What's up? What do you know about this audio stuff? You think I'm off the rails? I mean, literally, I start off the rails. So how far off the rails am I? And how you feeling tonight? Go right ahead, sir.
You're probably right on track, Mike. You know, I've been in one of those rooms that David was talking about where they have the screen on the floor and there's foam around everywhere and you can't hear nothing. I mean, you can hear your heartbeat. It's there's this is one of the things is like, but why I decided to call you because you were talking about the AI and how you did all that within like 3 minutes there. And could you just put a bump in the music that people were listening to while you were talking about the article or something like that and make them think a certain way? Is is that something that you can do? I mean, is that where we're headed with all of this thing, with the sound and the audio? I mean, obviously they're bringing it up. They're putting it in the news. Somebody came up with a new idea somewhere and we're talking about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one thing to like scientifically, the idea is great. But also science to me, like sort of extrapolates philosophy. I'm like, all right, sweet. I love that. Where's that going? Let's talk about that. So, and you're right. Like, the right maybe cadence in a drum line, or the right timbre of a voice, or the right. I mean, we've talked about this.
McDonald's had you want people to be hungry, so
the jingle.
You give them a certain.
Right. Yes, sir.
I'm loving it. I always hear Will Shatner now when he did that one. I really do. I mean, that's what every time I hear that.
Yeah,
that Will Shatner one.
That's all part of it. It's all part of it. And that's like, as you know, that's why we talk about this stuff. It's just important to keep it top of mind. And of course, you know, like I always say, think cosmically, act locally. And that means don't eat at your local than what we
McDonald's,
just said.
if you know it's good for you.
Yes, there you go. There you go. If you can,
especially if you're working at a place with a stinky potty outside sitting in the middle of the lawn in a yard somewhere because there's no toilet.
There you go.
You don't want McDonald's.
If you have the time or money or energy or all the above to not do that, don't do that. In any case, I mean, but I think this is it is at the core of what it means to be human, sort of these audio tones, the tonality of things. Like I said, you know, like I just realized I can actually do Michael Strange ASMR. We're gonna do that soon. That's so creepy.
The microphone.
That's so creepy. Does that creep you out? Raise your hands in the chat. Yes or no? Does it creep you out? It kind of creeps me out. And I know what I'm doing. I'm like, it's my finger and it's my microphone. It still creeps me out, that sound. Anyway.
You didn't like the fingernails on the chalkboard.
Exactly. Yeah.
When the girl in class wanted to get everyone's attention, she just went up there and scratched her fingernails down the chalkboard.
Ooh, yeah, that sound got me too.
Yeah, everyone's listening to you now.
Exactly.
Whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. So what do you think about this stuff? I think cosmically, act locally. Do you think that there is sort of a like a cosmic recurrence in sort of this transhumanistic future wherein we're trying to find back to R2-D2, back to the sound of the modem, back to the original cosmic source of audio? Is this the end goal of cosmic evolution? You think this is where we're headed?
Well, I mean, could it be? I mean, it's one of our greatest senses. I mean, I've got problems with my hearing because of the construction work and everything else like that for all that time. But the thing is, though, is I can still hear the fire trucks. Like, it's like 5-6 blocks away. When they pull out of that station, I hear that clunk, clunk of the metal before I hear the sirens when they pull out. The thing, it's like, why do you hear that thing? I saw an interesting thing today. Is like, were people snoring? Was that like a trait that kept you alive? Because when you were sleeping in your cave or your hut, it sounded like you were a great big fierce beast that kept predators away. I mean, the dumb stuff that comes across your table when you're on the internet, you know?
Yeah. Like I said, the TikTok dancing and the 30-second narratives, and it's like, it's all, so much of it is paid for by political. It's like, oh God, stop.
It's like,
please stop.
But why was this in the news today? You know, or the last couple of days? I mean, why did you pick this one? Wise. Money. There's got to be a money angle on it. If the scientists are, who's paying them to research that? And why? What are they, what are we doing with all this information? The stuff that's coming out practically daily now in congressional hearings about UFOs and all the other jazz. Oh, we've been lying forever.
Yeah. Not only that, we're going to talk about that this week too. So in case you guys don't know, there's a UFO hearing that's been scheduled for July 26th. So that would be next. Let's look at the calendar. July 26th is a week from Wednesday. So this Wednesday is the 19th. July 26th is going to be a week from that. So before that, we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about it astrologically. in the sense of, do we have just a shout out to extrapolate an idea before we get there and get some help if you guys are astrologers? Is July 26th, 2023 a power day? And is that why they're doing a UFO hearing in Congress? Anyway, go ahead, Jay. Just shout out in case anybody's interested in that. And you're true astrologers. Look, I can do some cursory information and make up some stuff and kind of angle shoot, but I'm not like a really locked in individual to that type of stuff. But I know there are people that are like, oh, such and such is in retrograde and the thing is moving and it's in transition. And hey, if you're into that, what's happening on July 26th at troublemindsradio@gmail, or you're welcome to be on the show. Reach out. Go ahead, sir. What else you got?
I'm going to have to ask my 7-year-old son. He just got back from space camp and he's all into it now. He's got his telescope set up at the window and propped open his bucketwood in there. And he's telling me all these things.
Nice.
He's into it. And maybe I'll have him call in.
Yeah. Sweet. So to pre-prep July 26th, is there any sort of astrological power to that day? And we can take it back to the Disney show like we did a couple days ago. But yeah, okay. So regarding just audio and sort of manipulation and stuff, is it I guess you could say like the cosmic manipulation, right? Like maybe there's a weirdness there to like we're eventually, like, remember how we always talk about control mechanisms, but not just here on Earth, and people manipulating people, but then also, news cycles and mass media and politics, and it scales and it's large and it's huge and it's disgusting. But then, if there's something greater than that manipulating those entities, the powers that be to do these things to us, then is there a cosmic manipulation in play? And why not? I mean, why not? It's worthy of thought. But in terms of us sort of finding the source in audio terms, you think that's where we're headed in this evolutionary aspect of transhumanist beep beep boop boop and R2D2 and modems, and this is how we're going to communicate in 1,000 years? What do you think?
Maybe that's the way that things that are going on now are trying to communicate with us, and we just don't get it. We're too busy listening to the radio or the TV or TikTok videos or whatever. We can't even hear it. Maybe it's all around us. I'm a firm believer that all the stuff we need to know, we know from that first second. It's just a matter of how you have to figure it out for yourself. Mike, you have your way that you do your thing with your radio show and you do a great job at it, but you had to figure out your own way. I do it with carpentry. James does it with his writing, the gardening and all the other things that go on with all the other people that call in. They all do that. It's something that's in you. If all this chitter chatter with all this other stuff that we're hearing isn't let us hear what's going on around us or miss it, not pay attention to it, keep us out of the loop so we're not listening, you got to hear it from the priest back in the old day when, the Inquisition and stuff like that was going on. If you didn't hear it from the priest, it was no good. I wonder about how that walks its way,
Exactly right. Shout out to Ouroboros, second I post links. Yes, just do it on Discord. It'll populate into the YouTube, just FYI. Troubleminds.org, click the Discord link on top. But anyway, yeah, so I think you're right. Like that's the worst part to me about all this stuff is like, and I think that's why people are so put off by religion, because it's like the control mechanisms, as usual. Like I always say, like we're always talking about, like, oh, the priest didn't say it, so it can't be real. It's like, really, bro? Really? Okay, I guess this is fine.
I mean, you see the things with your own eyes, and then you listen to somebody tell you it's not real, and it's like, well, wait a minute, how do you, it's not on the prints. Well, I'm sorry, it's not on the prints, but you can't do it that way. It's not going to work out for anybody later on. Things work the way that they work. And sometimes I think there's a reason for that. Is that cosmic? More than likely, just in my 50 years hanging out here.
Yeah,
Things just happen for a reason.
At least it's maybe coin flippy in my head, because I'm like, wait, like maybe we're just in our own head, sort of the egregore of the human population is like, oh, we're so important that we're cosmically relevant. But also, by the way, maybe we're not, and we're just ants in the cosmic sense, and nobody cosmically gives a damn. And that maybe plays. I see you on the phone. We'll get to you in a sec. Hang tight on the phone. We will definitely get you tonight. What else you got, Jay? Go right ahead, sir.
Not much, Mike, other than the fact that I've got to look up a quote that someone sent me on a card one time that I saved because it was so funny. I don't know if it'd be good for the end of the show, but because it's long. But
if it's from you, it's good enough for me, sir. You got a J-tro for us? We got a proper J-tro tonight?
Well, not the one that I'm talking about, but of course I do, Mike.
Of course you do. All right. So hang tight. Keep your ass right there. We're going to get back with Jay in the J-tro. That's Jay in New York, good friend of mine and good friend of the show. Good to hear you. Haven't talked to you in quite some time. Let's do it. Let's go to the phones. You are on Troubled Minds. What's your first name and where are you calling from? And it doesn't have to be your real name, and it doesn't have to be where you're actually calling from. Go right ahead.
Hello, my name is James.
We got a butt dial?
Hello?
Caller, you're on Troubled Minds. Speak up, please. I can't hear you barely. It sounds like background noise.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Please. Yes, speak loud and clear. Go ahead. What's up?
I apologize. Oh, man, this is the first time I'm calling into this. And I am from Idaho, and my name is James.
James? Is that what you said?
Anyways, yeah.
Okay, James in Idaho. Go right ahead. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
So, before we start, I have to put this into keywords or I'm going to forget. So, sound, priests, words, divine, vision, precognition, and intention. So, to start with sound, I heard you on the intro of the podcast, and you were saying sounds started the universe?
Conceptually, yes.
Like
yes, conceptually. I can't actually know that, but it was the premise of the show. But yes, I did say that.
Nice. I agree with sound started things because you need, but I disagree with that. It started the universe because a sound to travel, you need air. If everything started in space and sound is the first thing, then what is space without air? If you catch my drift.
Yeah, I catch you. Are you on a speakerphone? Could you kill the speakerphone if possible? You got a ton of background noise.
What about now?
That is so much better.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God, that is so much better. All right, yes.
It's a bunch of, you know why? That's a bunch of air. I left the server room, so there's a bunch of fans blowing in the server room.
Gotcha. All right, all right. Fair enough. No, I'm with you. We were talking about what sound means here in the atmosphere, but also in space, the energy, frequency, vibration, how all that plays in a universal aspect. And for me personally, I don't know. I don't know those answers, but I think it's fascinating to consider. And Tesla 369, all that stuff. But what else you got? We'll go a little long, of course.
Answers either.
Go ahead.
I don't know those answers because I'm sipping the maybe juice. I like to ask, if this, then that. But if there's some type of guy that has a theory, by the way, I think all theories are theoretical. Just being funny. But so a theory that the Big Bang banged everything and there was nothing before that. And all the sound started it all. Sound cannot travel without air. So what if all these elements were just in a fucking... I'm sorry, let me not... I apologize. I know there's rules to the radio. So imagine there's rules to everything. So the only way for sound to travel is if air existed. Oxygen. So in this before it banned, everything was together. And then...
Hold that. Wait. Hold that thought. We're running out of time. Hold that. We'll go a little long. We'll go long for you. Hold that thought. Okay. So, oxygen, sound, Stay right there. We're here with James in Iowa, and we're talking about sound, and we're talking about the primordial beginnings and how all this works or doesn't work. If you're listening to us on the radio, thanks for hanging out. Have a great night. You're going to find some amazing programming after this. In every other context, stay tuned for a little bit more Troubled Minds. Go ahead, sir. You're on. You're back, and let me kill the music. And sorry about that. Just multiple things happening here.
It's okay.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. So, okay.
It's
so
okay. I apologize. I'm trying to gather all my thoughts, but continue.
That's okay. That's okay. So, just the questions back to your thoughts where they were. So, oxygen and audio in the human eardrum it's a relevant conversation. It's why we bring this stuff up, because what does that seem like? Energy, frequency, vibration in space. They say there's no sound in space. Okay, fine, but how do we extrapolate the sound of a black hole and play to us? It's simulated. It's fake. It's fake. We're like, oh, by the way, this is what the trembling of like a cosmic earthquake sounds like to human ears. So, as usual, we're still filtering back to the human ears. But anyway, that was your premise a little bit. Go right ahead. What else you got?
Yeah, so like sounds, we covered sound. My question was like sound to the human eardrum, sound to like some spaghetti soup monster in space. Like, when does sound begin? After the bang. The Big Bang. Isn't bang a sound? So if it banged, where was the oxygen to carry the sound? So now that we've covered that, priests, you see how spiritual, because I'm going to restate the keywords so I don't carry on too long. I don't want to just like tick all the time up. But sounds, priests, words, divine, vision, precognition, and intention. That's like several words, but I'm going to try to speed it up so we don't fall behind. But priests speak, they preach. They do speeches in front of large amount of people that hear what they say, and they digest what they say, however they understand it. But those words have to carry some type of meaning. So you see, when you say Om, the meaning is what travels. And their sound travels, but like it's like a computer that gets an email. You received an email, your coworker received an email. The same email, but they both felt differently about it. Like, oh man, this guy wants us to work at 9 a.m. And the other person's like, yeah, I don't care about 9 a.m, but he wants us to leave at 8 p.m. Like two different meanings. So priests.
You're totally right. You're totally right.
Are like, yeah. Now, I want to hear your like reaction to that, so I can like feedback off of you.
No, it's true. It's true. So that's the thing, right? Perspective is literally everything. So as usual, I talk about the human superstar, the human movie star, whereas our consciousness seems to want to revolve the universe around us, which is absurd, of course, when you think even just one step beyond what our consciousness is. But also, by the way, we're being inspired, and there's like, the conscious antenna, and there's a lot of ways to look at it. But in terms of like not realizing there are people around you that have different aspects of life and different wants and needs, and you're the Tom Cruise superstar of the Mission Impossible movie, is absurd. The absurdity is real. But everybody out there, and I don't mean everybody, but like, let's say many people are still sort of locked in that, oh, I'm the Tom Cruise of the Mission Impossible movie. When you're like, no, no, I'm like, no, I'm not, you're not, we're not. Like, I don't give a damn. Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movie is just an actor. He's a Scientologist. He's an actor. He's a weirdo, and he's super rich, but he's also not the superhero of the universe, by the way. He's just Tom Cruise in this world, making a lot of money. Anyway, there's my take.
Do you think Tom Cruise could exist without being Tom Cruise? Like, if Tom Cruise was like some B-list movie guy, would he be satisfied?
That's a good question.
That's just a get off topic, but just a funny joke.
It's a good question, though. It's a good question. Anyway. I think his ego is so big, I'm not sure he could exist without being like the superstar of the world. Anyway, what else you got?
What if that's just not to piggyback off of your perspective? What if that's your perspective and he's perfectly fine with being Tom Cruise? You just need to pay him all the money.
Yeah, whatever. Like I said,
I'll step down from being Tom Cruise.
No, you're fine.
$1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's not a punching bag unless we get $1 billion. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Yeah, that's a joke. Anyway, so sounds and priests carry meaning. Sounds carry vibrations, frequencies, energy, whatever you want to call them. Then you have words. Words are breaking down the individual things that priests say. It's like a larger constitute of sounds. Sounds are turned into words, and priests use those words to convey meanings. So words are very interesting. Before I continue, do you have anything to say about words?
Yeah, no, words are magic, man. Like words are inspiring, words are manipulating, words can be every single thing, like up to and including violence in some cases, because like you could literally just destroy somebody with like a bigger ego and a bigger bombast and a bigger all of those things. You could destroy somebody and make them go commit suicide or something ridiculous with words. So but also the same. You could have somebody show up and be like, I don't know where I belong, and you could inspire them to change the world. Both ways exist. Like words are magic to me, and that's why I do the show. I think it's important to talk about it in that sense. Because there's both spectrums there. I was trying
to not go into that magical aspect, but you just opened up a wormhole. I got triggered because I wanted to do that, but I'm just going to stick to the plan.
All right, do it.
Magic. Words are magic.
All right, fair enough. What else you got? Go ahead.
I'm gonna make this a side filler so we can continue on with the other 4 bullets. But words are magic. Not necessarily magic does something magical, but magic has intention. So I'll move a bullet. I was going to make divine the next bullet, but I'll move divine and intention. So words have intention. When you say, I hate you, or you say, I hate you, like, I hate you can either mean like, I just don't like you right now, or it could mean like, I really don't like you right now. So when you say, like, when the word you own bangs from the universe, priests explain the sound in words, and those words get translated into your perception. Intention, what you do with the meaning that the priest says, matters next. Because me and you can both read the same book, but what do you want to do after you read that book?
Exactly. Some people want to inspire other people to be better people, and some people want to murder people because they don't believe what they just read. You're completely right.
Yeah, they read the same book and two different outcomes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What else you got? Hey, by the way, let me ask you real quick. I am impressed as hell. How did you find Troubled Minds? What the hell, man? Where have you been? Where have you been, James, in Idaho? Iowa.
I've been in Iowa, but Idaho, I'm currently in Idaho right now because Iowa is too hectic right now. It's a lot of chaotic energy happening there. And it's probably just where I'm located because Iowa is probably not like that.
No, I just misspoke. I misspoke. I wasn't accusing you of being somewhere else. I just misspoke. James in Iowa. How come we haven't?
I'm currently in Iowa, but Idaho.
I just misspoke because I'm a West Coast guy, so I misspoke. So anyway, how did you find Troubled Minds? That's the important thing here. How long have you been listening? What's up? You explain it
through Discord, a link that somebody shared in Discord that was like suggested, basically.
Okay. All right.
Link.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, welcome to the joint. You certainly have a mind that matches the vibe of what's going on here. What else you got regarding audio and all the rest of this? Do you think that we are, like you said, you started with the idea that sound is not the same in space, which we talked about, and it's amazing. It's an amazing thought. And then priests and the rest of this and how we sort of take the ideas and turn them into audio through voice and manipulate people. What's the end of ends? You think that we're chasing back to the source with this manipulation, or you think that we're just humans doing human things?
Okay, when I was brainstorming, the last topic I had about intention, we changed words into intention. Intention was going to be my last topic before I ended my stuff, but I have 3 more left. Being that I reversed it, I was going to say divine, vision, precognition, intention. So now that it's intention, vision, precognition, divine, I can talk about vision now. After you develop an intention, you want to do this after you read this book, from hearing a priest talk. Like, vision is not the present moment. I mean, it could be the present moment for people that cannot see the future, but your plans, when you plan something, that takes your intention and it creates more intentions. Like, the intentions is something that's happening every second. That's a made-up statement. But imagine your intentions were sliced into pieces of a pie, and it's one intention at a time, and the world is digesting your intentions one at a time. That's the magic that's multidimensional. It's like, I want to do this now, but 8 different things can happen, but as long as I keep this intention up, they can revert back to the original path. People are going to steer off from what I said because people have perceptions, but that's their vision. Vision is visual, 3D, the 3D world. The 3D world is taking the words you hear and the intentions you have and manifesting them into reality. Do you have anything to say about that?
I'm tracking what you're saying. What's your next point there? Go right ahead.
Okay, so manifesting intentions and words into reality consists of you visualizing your desires. The things you like, not the things you choose. You choose what you like. I feel like anybody that says, I have a choice, yeah, it's like everything in the world is not free. Willpower is free in a condition. You have to desire it. If you don't desire it, then yeah, you will it, but external forces influenced your willpower. If you don't truly want it, like, yeah, I like that. Liking and wanting is two different. It's like needs and wants. I need that, but I don't want it. I'm trying to find the best terms. It's like a duality of willpower. Yeah, power and will. You have the power to do something, but do you will it to happen? And that's vision. Vision, when you combine both into one compressed, centralized force, you have willpower. You start doing things like creating a channel called Troubled Minds because you liked it and you wanted to do it.
It's real. It's real, man. It's real. Hey, like I said, I always say this, and nobody makes me be here. And by the way, nobody makes you call. Nobody makes you think about these things. Like, there's no arm twisting here. I'll milk a little bit extra from callers from time to time, but like, because they're amazing people, and I know they got a little bit more. But in those terms, you're right. Like, so what do we want to manifest as people, and how do we want that to be extrapolated and, let's say, defined by not just the population now, but by history?
Yeah. How do you manifest it? So, it's funny how your words could just like go into my next topic. So there's 2 more left, I believe. Precognition and divine, since I switched around intention and divine. But so precognition and divine are next. So precognition is the ability to see something before it happens. Before I continue anything, have you ever experienced that before? Where you either had a dream, you daydreamed, you imagined, you wanted or lusted something, and it just happened? Like, you felt it was synchronistic, and like, you're like, why the fuck is this happening? I like, something must be up. What's going on? Have you ever felt precognition, like Minority Report, but without the fucking extra sci-fi shit?
Yeah, not directly. So do me a favor. No, you're fine. You're fine. So do me a favor. When you call back the next time, and I know you're going to, because you're amazing, but don't curse on the radio in the first 3 hours. After, like, we're after hours now. You can drop F-bombs all you want. But so here's the thing. So no. Okay. Just so you know, like I said, I know everybody doesn't know the rules, so let's just make clear.
I apologize.
Not just you. No, you're fine. No, we're into the past the third hour, so you're good. Oh, so here's the thing. Precognition, no, personally, where I woke up and was like, oh my God, something happened, and I dreamt this happened. You know what is the thing though? Troubled Minds is a version of precognition for me. because I listen to, other talk shows, and I was inspired by them, and some were terrible and some were good, and some of all the rest, right? But mix that bag. But also I was like, I could do better than this. And so here I am. But the weird thing is that probably my idol in like talk radio in these terms, I just got ahead of this guy. Like he used to be way ahead of my thoughts, and then suddenly like he sort of catapulted me because I was again tuned into what this guy was doing. But then now it was bizarre. There's a point where suddenly like this guy was now chasing me. And so I was saying things that he was saying a week later or several days later. And then I was saying things that he would say a month later. And now I'm saying things and we're saying things that he may never even touch. It's bizarre. So precognition in terms of like a direct thing, no. In sort of like the egregore of troubled minds precognition, absolutely, bro. Absolutely, it's a thing.
Yeah, now that'll catapult me to the theoretical part where I'm going to get all loopy and just like maybe juice, sipping lots of maybe juice right now.
Roll it.
But the precognition is like the intention part that I wanted to talk about earlier, but we switched it. No, we talked about intention earlier. Divine is next. So precognition is basically your future intentions. This is a guess. This is just my guess. Like, imagine everything you intend to do already happened, because if sound is the beginning of the universe, then what is light? Light travels faster than sound. So if sound was before light, like it's just something that we don't understand. What happened? If everything happened all at once, everywhere, simultaneously, sound and light and matter, then like what frequency traveled the farthest? It seems like light's the fastest based off of science, but if you have sound, like I don't think intentions are three-dimensional. I don't think intentions have a physical format. I think intention has non-physical, metaphysical properties. With that said, your precognition is just probably tapping into the things that you traveling faster than you imagine. You think faster than you can think. So your thoughts from the future just go backwards because you just thought about it already. Not because it's from the future, but because it's from the past. There's no time. There's no time. Time is non-existent and outside of the higher dimension from the 3D realm. Like, yeah, 2-dimensional one, probably time. But 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, it just dwindles. So it's like, imagine you experienced this already, and you're just like, you just loved it so much that you had to send yourself a text message, like, yeah, you need this. Wants and needs is my duality of intention. So that's my precognition thing. Whether precognition is multidimensional.
It was
my maybe juice question.
I think it would have to be. By the way, you're using maybe juice terms, so it seems like you've been listening to the show for a while. One more time, tell me how you found Troubled Minds, pretty please. Where have you been listening? Is my question.
Discord.
No. Where have you been listening? Wait. Where have you been listening?
Through YouTube. Discord.
Okay, YouTube.
Discord.
Right.
There's send me YouTube links. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, that's cool. That's what I want to know because we're marketing or not marketing.
Maybe juice because it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Maybe juice is a good idea. Conceptually, the maybe juice is like if this then that. It's not saying your theory is correct, but it's saying, hey, your theory might be correct too. So let's combine it. Now I can go into my last thing and then I'm done because
all right, go ahead.
6.
Go ahead, sir.
Divine, not a divine. This is the creepiest part that has the most maybe juice because I don't even understand it myself.
Right.
But like when you take intentions, precognition, words, speakers, and sound, and you combine that into one melting pot, it's like, well, where does it all come from? Where do all your thoughts came from the future? You heard somebody say something that you liked. You deciphered that into some words. They turned into sounds. It's like a bunch of metaphysical soup. But like, if there is no time, And then how does that derive? And my question is like, is it a higher power, or is that an illusion? Is the higher power an illusion and you the power, or there are no powers? Is everybody like, just so many maybe just questions that I don't have an answer. I feel like the best question is a question. The best answer is a question.
Amen. You're in the right place. Where the hell have you been? Where the hell have you been? Hey, you're welcome back anytime. Do me a favor. I'm not sure. Iowa. You said Iowa to start.
I'm in Iowa.
Iowa. All right.
That was a joke.
I know. James and Iowa. Look, this is the thing. So two requests. How are you talking to me right now? Is it a cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, do me a favor. Next time, so we're having just a smidge hard time hearing you because of that background noise when you first called, and then et cetera, so on. Please join the Discord. No, you're fine. You're allowed. We're all allowed to be human. It's all good. I'm asking you to please join our Discord, troubledminds.org. Click the Discord. You can even use a fake name, and it's all fine. Okay. And it's all like, but then the audio quality through the Discord service is like 384K, and like the phone is just trash. So just so you know. Next time you're going to be on, and you're going to call me back because you're amazing, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you for listening. Thanks for knowing the maybe juice terms. Thanks for exactly defining it in terms of if this, then that. That's what it is. And thanks for blowing up our brains with amazing thoughts. You're the best. I appreciate the call. You're welcome back anytime, and you know where to find us, okay?
Mr. Strange.
Thank you. And reciprocal.
Thank you.
And reciprocal, thank you for calling. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for the great ideas, and have a great night. Join the Discord, troubledminds.org. Join the Discord. We'll catch you soon. James in Iowa. Have a great night. Hey, look, first time caller. There you go. This is what I'm talking about, right? This is what I'm talking about. You meet new people, and they just bring fire. Like the new people we meet are like dragons. They're like, show up and just blow the fire everywhere. 702-957-1037. But we're shutting down the phone line because we're done with this. Holy crap. Wow. James in Iowa. And like I said, I only messed it up because Idaho and Iowa, because I'm a knucklehead on the West Coast, and you know, like they're different places to me. And anyway, this is the thing. What do you know about it? Let's go back to Jay in New York. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for being patient. You're the best, bro. Anything on what James in Iowa said? Holy crap. What's going on?
Holy crap.
Holy crap. What's going on with new callers?
I need 15 years to process all that.
Yeah.
It's like that. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Just, it's so cool that happens. The mental yoga that we deemed it, months and years or whatever ago.
Not only that, he's been listening for quite some time. He's like dropping maybe juice terms on us. That's amazing. Exactly.
It's not the first time you listen to a show, dude. It's definitely cool, man. He definitely blew the brain up a little bit there. I don't know. I need some processing time to respond to that, Mike. Really, that was
all good. So not necessary. What are your thoughts on all the conversations tonight and where we're headed and where we're going? And of course, as you know, we're running out of time. But I'm not going to squeeze you.
You're way past time. No, you're way past time. So
no. Come on, wait. We're friends. We've been friends for a long time. I'm not going to squeeze you. So if you got thoughts to add them, because we're past time. It's good. We're sort of over time, and it's fine.
That whole thing, he changed his words in the middle of all that from priest to speaker. Did you notice that too? I mean, I know that you're alert and you catch on to things, but did you notice that when he first started off, it was priest and then it turned to speaker?
I didn't catch that. No.
It was just like the power of the voice. It's like it's one of the things like why we talk after hours all the times on the voice chats that we have and everything else like that, is because I love you guys are all my friends and I want to know how you're doing and I worry about you guys constantly and stuff. But the thing is though, is I want to hear your voice. You can tell me in a text message that I'm doing great. But if I don't hear your voice say that, the inflection, you know what I mean? It was like the whole part of it, the tones, what's going on. You know, you can say something really nice in a mean way. You know, you can tell your dog, good dog, and he'll lay down. Or you can tell your dog, good dog, and pat him on the head, and he's happy and his tail's wagging. You know, it's not the words, it's the tone. And I just...
The tone in the timber, man. Shut the fuck up, Jay.
I'm sorry.
Wait. No. It was just it was an example of the tone. Like, see how I speak to you now and how I said that then. Like, you get it. Like, it's not necessarily the words people say. It's how they say those words. It's important, man. It's incredibly important. And you get it, man. Like a shout out. Holy crap, James in Iowa. What's up? Where you been? But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, and I guess you would call it. You know, we've talked about this about children in the past, and so they have like this BS detector, you know, and they know, and it's because of things like that. Like, they're tuned into sort of the timbre and the tone and the right. If you're irritated, they know, and so it's sort of a secondary, tertiary, and even layers and layers of social perception and cognition that even like, you know, the deepest psychology on earth still is like, yeah. like when I see, like, I'm more so doing psychology new papers than I am doing, you know, UFO stuff anymore. Because it seems like the psychology stuff to me is like, it's like, really? Is this where we're at? Like, it's 2023 and we're like, oh, by the way, we probably know more than we think we know. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no shit. Like, I get it. Psychology people aren't drinking maybe juice, but we are. So if then what? What else you got, Jay?
Well, I mean, but the thing is, those the people that are drinking the maybe juice are catching on. You know, we're drinking the maybe juice and we see this stuff that's going on. We know it. You know, we talk to each other. You guys shot yourself in the foot when you put everyone on the internet for 2 years and didn't let them do anything. They all started talking to each other. They found their Discords, their YouTubes, their podcasts, their whatever. People are waking up.
They found us. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You know, there's James from Iowa, you know.
You got it right, I didn't. Yeah.
I thought it would have been really cool if he was from Idaho, because I lived out that way for a while, and I could just, like, I had a mental picture in my head of him, you know what I mean? Just
East
like
Coast,
some climber dude.
Easterish, westerish coast, yeah.
Yeah.
I always think Iowa, and it, I've never been to Idaho. I've been to Iowa, though. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. Yeah. What else you got? I mean, this is weird, man. This is a weird one, as usual, and this is why we do it, because I think it's important to, like, look at things not from a single perspective, or, and like I said, I don't hate science, and I'm not an anti-science guy. I think science is valuable, and I think they have to, like, you know, take baby steps and prove the things they say, or else they're, you know, giant
Isn't
assholes.
this what we're doing? Basically, science, though.
No, this is not science.
We're talking about about all the points, all the conceptual ideas. Nobody knows anything about all of these things that we talk about. Prove us right or wrong. I mean, obviously, you know, we can get into all the different things, Mike, but the thing is, though, is that's what science is. Science is a discussion.
No.
Of the facts.
Wait. But you got to be able to, like prove the things and then be able to replicate them and duplicate them and all those things. We're not doing that. This is more philosophy than science, for sure.
Well,
That's okay.
I mean, I enjoy it because of that, because it makes for a much interesting conversation.
I agree. Then what? The maybe juice, like James said there. Yeah. I don't know. And what else you got regarding Back to the Meat Suit exit, this Cosmic Symphony? What about audio and how this plays? And let's wrap this up. I got food to eat and sleep to be had, or Beer to be drank.
The end of the workday, Mike. You made it. A half an
Indeed.
hour late.
We're there. Nah, we're good. I'm having a good time with my friends. What else you got?
No, really, Mike. I mean, I could go on about all these things that we have forever and a day. You know, I really could, because they're just such interesting conversations. I mean, that's one of the reasons why this works so great, is because someone completely out of the loop like James just randomly calls in and rattles off all of his bullet points, and it's like, wow, dude, damn it. You know, that's great. That's exactly why you do it. That's exactly why I listen and call and talk, because of all the different ideas. I have a million things that I could think about all this stuff. I probably will for days to come. And then I'll listen to tomorrow's show, and then there'll be 9,000 more things in the whole thing rattling around in there. You know,
which is perfect. And you know what happens often too, by the way. So like we'll do a show, and like at the end of the show, like the egregore of that show, the tulpa, let's say tulpa of that show, will sort of ruminate in my head the next day, and I'll be like, damn, we missed so much. Like there's this and this and this, and this is why sort of these shows sort of kind of move into the next one, because what we talk about tonight inspires tomorrow night, and inspires the next night, and here we are. But yeah. Let's wrap it. I do have to eat. Let's do the thing. So final thought, and let's get to the J-Tro, my friend.
Not much of a final thought other than, damn it, Mike, fantastic job after fantastic job, buddy. Really.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And you too, and everybody else that's here. Like I said, it's not just me. The only reason I'm still here doing this is because of all of you amazing people. Honestly. Imagine doing this by yourself and only by yourself, and nobody listening forever. You'd quit. You'd become discouraged. You would stop. I'm not stopping because of all you amazing people that enjoy the cosmic musings, the cosmic soccer ball. The bases dropped. Go ahead, Jay. What's your J-Tro, my friend?
Deep conversations with open-minded people is such an underrated luxury. That's all.
Boom. And sometimes the audio makes it all. Like I said, if you guys are into the Michael Strange ASMR, let me know. Drop in the chat.
You're not AI. You're scratching the microphone with your fingy.
Exactly right. Jay, you're the best. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for being part of this. Again, if you guys don't know what's going on the Discord and you haven't joined it, you get to meet amazing people like Jay, myself. There's a lot of us active on the Discord having conversations. Sometimes it's not every night, but it's here and there and everywhere. And come say hi. Come meet us. We're not robots. We can actually ASMR through music and all the rest. Look, that's that. I appreciate it very much, Jay. Slaying it as always. Every single caller, as you know, is slaying it. And also challenge me if I'm wrong, by the way. Do we have the best callers in the business? To me, it's unequivocal. There's no doubt whatsoever. But if you're newer-ish here and you hear callers anywhere else, let's put it to the test. If you want to help Troubled Minds, there's so many ways. As I say, all these amazing people that are part of this show, follow them. Links in the description, troubledminds.org/friends. Just go follow these people. I'm going to add Jacob Harsher, boy, his music there too. He sent me the link. Go look. A lot of these people have, they're brilliant people, as you can tell, and they have things that they want you to be aware of. And so let's be part of that and help them get the idea out in whatever that is. In his case, it's music, and other people, they're writing books, and other people, they have podcasts, and that's why we have a link at troubledminds.org/friends. Do the thing. Follow all those people. If you're looking for some books, don't go buy some, top of the guy, the most viral guy type book. But go buy a book from one of our Troubled Minds friends that you enjoy listening to, and hey, go do the thing, please. I appreciate it very much. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, myself directly, and this whole network directly, listen on KUAP Digital Broadcasting. It helps. Spread the word. Let people know there's a conversation happening where we're not going to talk about politics or tell you who to vote for. Do the things, buy the hat, troublefans.com. Of course, if you don't want to spend money or not have money to spend, it's all good. You're very welcome here. This is about ideas, not about money. And of course, that will come later. If it's even in the cards, like, I don't care. I'm here because I think it's important, and I hope you are too. Listen to the podcast feed. It helps. It's monetized. Good Pods, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Shout out that bump in Discord. Rumble. Not Discord, Rumble. Shout out the bump and Rumble chat over there. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging out with us. And everywhere else, too. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Want to do it, Jay? On the spot. You may fall asleep.
Be sure. Be strong. Be true.
Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. Thanks, Jay. You're the best, brother. Catch you guys soon.
God willing, we have tomorrow.
God
I love your grandmother.
Thank you. As do I. You guys are the best. Thanks again to Jay and everybody else. We'll see you guys when we see you. Have a great one.